Y'all hear us on Zoom? Anyone?
Yes.
Sure can.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
Is it just those three virtually right now?
No, there's more. I'll list it out.
Okay, thanks.
All right, it's 1:03 p.m. Gonna call the Grand County Budget Advisory Board meeting to order for October 21st, 2022. And present, we've got Chris Bear, Gabriel Wojtek, Kevin Walker, Chris Kaufman, Renee Baker, Shady Bryant, Mary McGann is absent from the board. And first order of business is action items, approval of the minutes from October 14th. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I move to approve the minutes from October 14th.
Okay, Kevin makes the motion. Any second?
I'll second.
Kaufman seconds. Any corrections? Got a perfect score so far, Gabe. All those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye. Aye. Or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
I'm gonna assume that's everybody. Passes 6-0. All right. Switch screens here. First up, we're gonna revisit Family Support Center. I worked with Julie this afternoon to tweak that budget a bit. Okay, so we did make, some minor adjustments to the revenue. I try to like this thing. So one of the main things that we did, it's not huge, but it's something, is we added in this expense reimbursement. This is from, why don't you explain the expense reimbursement, Julie?
Okay, so the expense reimbursement that I believe is up there is the crisis respite nursery reimbursement for the DCFS child that we had in August and a little bit of September.
Okay. So I think in 2021 it was so high because we had the CARES Act money that came in, and that's probably where it was receded. But I put in 6,500, which is kind of the middle of the road for that revenue stream. And then the other element was we had to raise the county's contribution to balance the budget. We had to raise the county's contribution from about 110,000 to about 127,000. And so we'll discuss that in a little bit. Also, for the record, Mary McGann joined the meeting 1:06 p.m. Welcome, Mary.
Thank you. Couldn't get my bike lock to work. I've been out there fighting it for 10 minutes.
All right, then we'll shift back over to the expenditure side of Family Support Center. So one of the big things we worked on is the salary and benefits element. According to our grants, salary and benefits should be split 75% on the DHS and 25% on DHHS. So we did that. We split those out. Renee, were you able to run any reports yet on the part-time hour?
I did, yeah. So I got an average of 1,900 for the total year for all part-timers. So that's about 633 across the three positions.
633.
Yep.
So I'm going to make this adjustment now. I think that one of the problems with the initial budget was that the number of part-time hours was just too high. So I'm going to change that right now to 633 for each of the part-timers, which should get us closer. I'm going to have to do it for both budgets. This should allow us to reduce the county's contribution. Now I can do the same thing over here. Okay, so did that. We'll look at the bottom line here in a second. The other adjustment is I ran some projections on some of these utilities. We do have some anomalies this year with the water. I don't know that that's been figured out yet, but I did calculate for this year, we're looking at like 6,278 was my projection, which is much higher than in the past. I'm not sure why that is. I did bring it back down to 4,000 with the assumption that whatever the problem is, if it's a leak, that it will be fixed next year. And so Julia turned the water off and we still had a big water bill for one of those months. And so something's wrong about the water.
Well, Sean has gone over and done one site visit and he says that there is not any obvious leak. He can't figure out what's going on so far, but we've also put in a request to the city they actually by contract are required to be responsible for all outside maintenance. So I didn't even know we were paying water. So once I realized that, we put in that request right away. Carly was pretty open to it, but she hasn't gotten back to me yet. So I'm hoping the whole water thing goes away for next year, but we don't know that yet.
Well, anyway, I'm budgeting according, assuming that it will go back to normal. So the utilities, we dropped down a bit. I don't think we tweaked any other figures, did we, Julie? That was it.
Nope, I think that was it.
So now let me take a look at the bottom line. We should be able to reduce the contribution. So yeah, we can reduce contribution by 16,751, which is the savings from changing the part-time hours. Do the math on that real quick.
Great. So yeah, that seems closer to what we've been contributing, about 110.
Yeah, I think we'll get back to 110 and have it balanced out. So
The figures, remember there were those expenses that the association was going to agree to pay for? That- Those just sprung to my mind as potentially needing to for in here, because like we talked about, it's a reimbursement, not them paying directly for it. So we'll bring it up when Chris is ready. Do you know how much that total is? It was like 6.
all right, so we balance the budget. It's zeroed out into revenue expense. We brought the county contribution back down to about 110,000. So that's good. I think we got it sorted out at least as far as we can right now. This is DHHS grant is a new grant. So I think, it might take a few years before we can really budget accurately because we don't really have a history with it. But I think we're as good as we can get now. Anybody have any questions on the Family Support Center before we move on?
What was that county contribution line? Set to?
So we reduced it down to, or we set it at 110,107.
Okay, so there was one other item that I became aware of and helping and also working with Julie with the budget, which are there are some expenses that the Family Support Center Association of Utah has agreed to pay for that are outside of the grant, and they would take the form of reimbursements. And I don't think it's accounted for in that 6,500 line set in reimbursements.
Well, we can do better. So what, tell me about it.
Well, Julie, just to verify that these numbers seem right. And has this been typical? Do you know if this is like a new thing for the Family Support Center?
Yeah, it is with
Okay.
this new gov bud. They,
So it would be this on this column, the association expense paid for. And so,
yeah, so they are paying for any amounts that we use mileage. And that is right, that is outside of
okay,
this amount.
so it would be 5 + 1 + 1 + 10.
Uh-huh.
So that would be,
paid by the association.
so there's $17,000 total that the association has agreed to reimburse the Family Support Center. And that's outside of the grants.
17,000 total.
Yeah. And so I was explaining to Julie that since it's a reimbursement, we have to make sure to budget that sort of as a revenue and expense in order for us to spend that money. Be reimbursed for it.
Well, good. Say that, redo the contribution. County contribution.
But to be clear, these are sort of expenses that are, these are revenues and expenses that are outside of the confines of the grant. So I don't think it would affect the county contribution.
But county contribution is just whatever is needed to balance the budget.
Okay,
It's not a hard set amount.
Got it.
So
But Julie, is this for the new on-call person? And so whenever they're called out, it would get reimbursed and that's not already in here? Is that already in here?
so this is an extra $5,000 for mileage reimbursement and other travel expenses, an extra $1,000 for parent education materials, $1,000 for program evaluation, and $10,000 for staff development and training, making 17.
So I guess the question though is, Julie, is that going to prompt an additional expense over what we've already budgeted, or is going to be offsetting the expenses we budgeted?
So we will, for example, we just went to a meeting in Logan and I did pay for those expenses through the county card, but those will be submitted to the association to be reimbursed for those expenses.
Okay, but what I need to know though is, we laid out these expenses in here according to the grant.
Mhm.
But if this is outside the grant, then do we need to add 17,000 in expenses? You know what I mean?
My understanding is that, yes, that is the case. There's a separate column made here for association expenses that's outside of the approved expenses for the grant.
All right, let me see. So,
But for example, the mileage, I mean, they're not requiring Julie for you to go to something new, right? I mean, those going to your director meetings are eligible trips, for example. And same with programming. We already are obligated to do programming. So those expenses are in there. They're not obligating us to do something new. And that's why they're giving us the 1,000, or are they?
No, from what I understand, those are expenses that if we have any type of training or any type of expenses that the association is requiring, then they will pay for those.
but
They will
so
reimburse.
Have we already budgeted those expenses?
I think they're both.
All that we've budgeted for on the expense side, because I entered them in, are directly aligned with the 2 approved grant budgets. So the answer, my understanding of that is no.
All right, so it won't change the contribution, but if we're gonna do that, we're gonna have to bolster then the,
Like, as you'll
The
see,
expense side.
travel is only set at 500 right now. And so, for example, that might be where that 5,000 would go.
you wanna read off to me just one at a time, which elements I need to increase.
So I would add 5,000 to travel.
All right, hold on.
And so there's 1,000 for parent education materials. So we'll just have to keep track and remember, or be very intentional about how we code it when we get around to.
Do you wanna write down these codes right now?
Yeah. So I don't, parent educational materials, would we put that in communications and printing? And
Possibly books.
Let's see, book subscriptions, I guess it doesn't matter as long as we code it to whichever budget we put it in. So 1,000, you say? Should we just put it in books and subscriptions?
Sure.
1,000?
And then 1,000 for program evaluation.
Where should we put that one?
So I feel like that could go under conferences, workshops.
Is that like is that hiring someone to come evaluate the like a professional
I believe that is for us to be trained.
self-evaluation?
Uh-huh.
Okay. That
How much?
1,000 more in there.
Let's see these accounts.
Yeah. And then there's 10,000 in staff development and training to be added. So I don't know if that would go in that same conference workshop line, if there's a
Mhm.
schooling line, it doesn't look like it.
I would say conference, workshop.
10,000.
All right, sorry for holding up the meeting, but I felt like that was valuable to get in there.
So let me double check that we're still down.
Yeah, we want everything in there that's supposed to be. It's
Okay,
important.
well, it didn't drop the county's contribution, but at least we got that covered, so. We're still zeroed out. And yeah, we just have to remember about those accounts.
I'll send out a memo.
Okay. All right, anything else?
What was the county's contribution now?
110,000. Didn't change because we added 17,000 in revenue and added 17,000 in expense, so it just balanced out. Okay. Anything else?
Good job, Julie. Woohoo.
All right.
Yay.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yeah, so if anything else changes, before like beginning of December, just let me know. We can still, tweak it, but I think we're balanced as well as it can be right now. Okay, then, next up, we've got Bill Jackson with Roads and Bridges Department. That fund.
Thank you. Thank you.
Nice, Julie.
Thank you.
So this is Fund 21. Start off with our revenue. So this fund is where the county's voted optional transportation taxes is received. My projection for 2022 is 1,015,892. And so the same as all the other taxes, I'm just carrying that straight across to 2023 with 0% growth. Hopefully that's conservative enough. B road allocation, we've got right now at 3 billion. 2021 came in at 2,985,000. I do think that part of the B road allocation is calculated using gas sales. And so I would expect that we'll get an increase. Let me just look at the allocations that have come in so far. How many allocations do we get?
6.
6.
Of course,
So I
they
only
follow
see,
their fiscal year, right?
yeah. How are you doing on the PTIF?
June.
So we've got 4 more. I think I already did this and it came up about 3 million. So we don't know yet. If the reroad allocation has risen significantly yet. But if it does, we'll go back and tweak it. I think 3 million is a safe bet right now.
Yep.
That's the main revenue stream there. And then the county contribution for the general fund, 200,000, this covers fleet maintenance, and other stuff that the roads department does that isn't directly working on roads.
And is there's something like, we're required, when we get the optional sales tax, we have to maintain a general fund?
It said that, the optional sales tax, part of the statute says that if it's adopted, that whatever your current contribution from the general fund is, can't go down. So it's 200,000 at that point in time, which is probably pretty reasonable, actually, if you consider, all the work that the county does for fleet maintenance and, other things like that. So let's see, we don't have anything from.
Also, on part of that, Chris, I have to remember, in years past, we put back 70,000 and change, right, to administration, then back into the general fund out of that 200,000.
Yeah, that's for, that's for like HR,
Payroll.
that kind of stuff. Yep. So it's kind of, it goes both ways, but this 200,000 is really mostly for fleet management and maintenance.
Yeah.
So we don't have anything from the Forest Service that we're expecting to.
Possibly, that was just who was calling me right there.
But nothing for sure right now.
No.
Are we gonna get anything this year?
That's what I'm trying to work on.
Oh,
See if I can get some reimbursement.
Expense reimbursement, this is when road department does work for other departments oftentimes, like Sam Flats, et cetera. Right?
Yes.
Or GCAT, for instance,
Yeah.
when you did the dirt work over the bike skills park.
Yep.
Those kind of things. Yeah. Do you want to budget anything for that next year?
But, I always put something in there just because I don't really know what other departments are really up to,
Yeah.
But sometimes it can come out of that 200,000.
Yeah, it's been a lot. In the past, some years it's been a lot.
Right.
And so it's kind of all over the place just because we don't know what project, but
Yeah.
I would say we could probably safely budget at least like 24,000, it looks like.
Yeah, and that's fine.
This is kind of expenses incurred sort of on behalf of other departments by the roads department.
Yeah, so, if the road department does, it's oftentimes equipment operator time.
Yeah.
Or other funds in the county, not related to roads. So, we can't use B road money for those projects because they're not roads. So we have to figure out a way to pay for them otherwise.
It's been fairly minimal though. But
Yeah.
sometimes it's.
So then, the Transportation Special Service District, probably gonna make contributions to stormwater and not roads, right?
Yeah, so right now they've obligated 265,000 to the Jackson Phase 2. And then last meeting, they obligated 100,000 to the EWP project.
So one of the things that we kind of wait till near the end, we probably put it on the agenda for next week, is to discuss stormwater contribution. Usually wait until the general fund is pretty buttoned down to find out what our bottom line is. And so we'll be addressing that, once I get to the point where I know what the bottom line is looking like for the general fund. We have for the past few years been contributing 400,000, which is, the seed money that we've used for making the match on our 2 big CIP projects. So, it's important to do that if we can. I don't know how it's going to be that though. Okay, so charges for services, is this like other funds, fleet management stuff, or what do you normally?
Other current services is generally revenue from snow removal for San Juan County, Castle Valley, encroachment permits.
Okay. So, looks like we might come in a little under budget, but we had 20,000 in for this year. What do you think we should put in for next year?
I'd say something similar, you know. Encroachment permits keep rolling in. If the winter's a good one, you know. We'll be catching up at 22, pushing through 23.
And interest, this is on the V Roads fund balance, which is I think about 3.5 million. So we should put something in for interest, but I think it's interest rates are actually going up, right?
Mhm.
So, you know, we still need to do a big calculation on interest because we consolidated all our PTI accounts and now it's all in one big block. And so we have to, we have to figure, I think Chris Coughlin and Gabe are going to work on that. I'm just going to put 19,784 again and come back later and tweak it once they get done doing the calculations. And then are you selling any equipment or vehicles?
No.
We did have 15,700. That looks like we were expecting to sell as we replaced with enterprise fleet. Is that gonna happen at all?
Not this year.
Not next year either.
I've got it budgeted.
Well, it's not, it doesn't look like it.
Yeah, it should be there at the lease vehicles bottom line there on 2023.
I mean, the revenue side of selling the old.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you meant that. No, I haven't. So you're talking this budget?
Next year or this year, both.
We're not going to sell anything from the road department this year. If we get the lease vehicles, then that's what we'll end up doing.
So Cody, I think calculated, minimal value for what you are gonna sell if you get your lease vehicles is 15,700. That's still good.
Yeah.
Put that in. All right. So that's it on revenue for now. We'll revisit the contribution for the fund balance. That's what this one is right here. Get a little further on. Now we'll move over to the expense side. So Bill, yeah, as I told you earlier, let's just concentrate on some of these line items that have gone up relative to 2022. You want to just start at the top and work your way down? Looks like the first one is equipment supply.
Probably just equipment implements and, the supplies for all of our equipment, trucks. Everything's going up, so.
So this increased cost of commodities.
Yeah.
So that was going from, well, it's actually down from what the 2022 budget is.
Yeah, I've made that adjustment. I think we're probably hitting that $200,000 range.
Okay. Shop supplies went up like 5,000, probably the same reason.
Yeah. Yep. You just want to hit the big ones there. We still have the loader lease that we leased last year. We got a 2-year on it, so it's coming up again. We'll pay for that. It's 15,000. Then the 2 graders, those leases went up to, I think, 45,000 apiece. We'll have new ones actually coming in November.
So this 100,000 is the combination of all the.
For 2, yeah, combination of all.
The fuel you've cranked up quite a bit.
Yep.
So you're speculating right now that we're going to hit 250 this year,
Yeah.
and then you're adding, expecting even higher gas prices next year.
Aren't we all?
I don't
OPEC
know.
has anything to do with it.
Special and technical drop a little. What's your project next year? Engineering?
Yeah, I think that, if we get this SS4, was it Safety Streets for All grant? You know, we'll have a little bit of that in there. You know,
What was the total on that grant? Do you remember?
well, I think the total match, it was 750,000, but it was gonna be split between the county and the city, which still has to be an agreement worked out on that, but,
When do you think we'll hear back on that?
I just talked to Brent yesterday about it. If we're lucky, into November, December. If we're lucky.
And so have we got the full expense of what we're expecting in this budget?
Well, it's kind of a, no, well, I think when we go to my capital project fund, that's where I'll
All right,
plug
we'll
that
talk
in.
about that.
Okay.
We might want to, though, if part of this professional technical is that grant, we might want to have that grant be all in one fund.
Okay, that's fine.
Otherwise, it'd be hard to track.
So you know, there's things that come up, you know, that I need, some engineering done throughout the year, those kind of things, so.
All right.
I just plug it in.
Okay, then the administrative services, the same, I'll probably recalculate that.
Yeah, I thought
For everybody. The auditors weren't quite happy that the last time I calculated that, so I gotta redo that. We'll probably go up though, just so that.
Sure.
Easements went down a little. Cell phone staying the same. Special highway projects, wanna tell us about what you got planned?
Well, just pretty much the typical stuff, you know, asphalt preservation, crack inlet. Actually, quite a little bit more expense on the granular borrow, fixing some of these washout stuff. Things like that. Which we're working on, but, you know, it'll go into next year.
Then insurance. So you bumped it up to 27,000 after that. How can we do that?
So it looked to me like it was headed that direction. The
Yeah, I mean,
actual,
it's over
what's
budget.
the actual? Yeah, it's over budget right now.
18,980. So you're expecting another almost 10,000, 9,000.
Good thing about it, if it don't, it just rolls right back into my budget for next year.
Have you heard from Jenna about any of that yet?
I have.
Do you know where Jenna is at with calculating? costs across?
Hey, Chris, I have an answer to that. Darren's, we just got something from Darren this week about the insurance. He's gonna try and get us an estimation of the premiums. I sent him back kind of what he needed to get that, so we should have it next week.
All right, so this would be like liability on the buildings and equipment.
Mm-hmm,
All right,
as well as
we'll
workers' comp.
tweak that when we get those numbers. We'll have to do it across the whole county. Okay, let's see, anything else? Major. Land acquisition, we're dropping. Are you gonna do anything on that? What we were gonna do for land acquisition this year?
I've kept that in for this year for that possibility of having to buy some land there on stocks. For the EWP. They don't fund any of that. So essentially, that's not going to be used for land acquisition, but it'll be for any cost overruns on stock drive. Right? Which there will be. So.
Okay. All right, then on the road equipment, this is a big one here. 970,000 for next year. And I go over what we're looking at there.
So the commission's already pre-approved the street sweeper, the back trailer, as well as the tilt trailer. 2023. And in a nutshell, our chip spreader right now is at 1982 at Nair. Seen its better days, obviously. So
Okay.
there you are. still working, but it's been a lot of maintenance on it.
Yeah, inventory, so we were buying some radar speed signs, radar speed trailers, other signs.
Right.
So it's been requested a lot. From some anyway.
So right now, we've just got 6 of them on the signs, post mounted. And that's something we can talk about if we don't, want to continue to, commission wants to continue to pursue that, which I'm assuming it will be Spanish Valley Drive. I don't know whoever the squeakiest wheel's been, but what,
The trailer ones are mobile, right?
The trailers are mobile and I put them in there. I've had conversations with the sheriff's office in the past about that they might have some, be able to get some grant money. But that seemed to be materializing. So truth is, in my mind, those trailers ought to be coming from law enforcement, not from the road department, but.
2 of them.
Or you got two?
I've got 2 of them in my budget.
Do you?
Yes.
All right.
Should we take them out then of this one?
Yeah, take them
How
out.
much are they?
Total, I think was 21,000
For two?
for 2.
You getting better ones then.
Because we
How
got
much
the
should
ones
we-
that had did the traffic data. And they not only did speed, but they recorded traffic data volume. I can't remember what all. it
Yeah.
did.
Yeah, these were just speed that we got.
How
So
much were they?
they were just nearly $8,000 a piece. So there was 2 of them in there. It was, no, that, okay, yeah. Per system, I'm sorry, it's 3,844.57 a piece. Total of 7,687.14, plus the shipping and costs like that is another 2,500. So total of 10,189.14.
Drop that down a little bit then.
It just came in the right time.
Yeah. Time is just perfect, huh? Yeah. One of the things,
Timing
while
is everything.
we're both kind of sitting right here, do we want to look at, one of the other things I don't think we got prices on, but looked at was the hard mounted signs.
Or like the post signs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got 6
Okay.
of them in the.
Okay, because I didn't have any of those. But we
No.
talked about some.
No, I kind of, this, in my train of thinking, it was, that would be more of a road department.
Right, hard sign versus mobile.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. And then we're picking up some new leases, hopefully next year we get them. So this is 33,000. Are you gonna still hoping to get one this year?
Yeah, I kept 7,000, I think, in there. Yeah. Just in case.
For a truck?
Yeah.
It's probably more gonna be like, isn't it up around more like 85, 86?
I just split it down, it could be, I don't know the exact number on that crew cab, but it's pretty. But I don't know how they do it. They do it by the year, so the year's about out. So,
Yeah, it won't be much. One thing that maybe you could ask Cody for is just give me like a revised figures on all those leases across the whole county. I think that figures have changed a little bit since we first did, our initial lease projections. And so I've just got the original values still in across the county. So if they change, I kind of go in and tweak that.
yeah. And I just bumped it up like 3,000, $3,000 this coming year. So it could be more, yeah. Okay.
All right, let's take a look at the bottom line. Then that's the end of or no, there might be this would be. And then we got this contribution to trail maintenance is the final one on the expense side. So even though that, the optional sales tax has dropped, I'm trying to hold the line on it and keep it the same as 2022. So this would be transferring some of that optional sales tax money over, which is active transportation is allowed expenditure. So we transfer about 100,000 every year to build up a reserve for paved path maintenance. And then 307,503 for just GCAT operations. So total of 407,503, and again, just trying to, not redo their budget.
I'd recommend taking some of that out of the pay path budget and put it over to active transportation this year. I don't foresee any major
Well,
maintenance.
it's not really it's not based on like annual costs, it's based on the schedule that we created.
Yeah.
And so I think, if we get, we're gonna start adding to the system. So I think that, it's been okay so far, and we could reevaluate, but I think making that scheduled contribution is important, because it's a savings account,
Yeah.
basically. It's not just based on 1 year's worth of need, we know that some years we're gonna have big expenditures, like do seal coats and
Sure.
whatever, and then other years.
What is that? You're saying that 407 is what's in that fund balance now? For
No, this is the contribution coming from
Oh, okay.
the sales tax to GCAP for 2023.
So I think we budgeted 500,000 for the trails this year, and it actually only came in, because I had no idea what oil prices, so it came in like 114. So this year's budget actually can carry over and
It does,
go into
yeah.
active transportation.
That's what I do with this. So like I said, I sent 100,000 over, and then that just builds up in the fund balance over in Fund 47. And then when we need the money, it's there because we're saving up for it.
I understand the concept, but I also understand that we got some road projects. If we get these grants coming in and matches, we're gonna have to do, so.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're probably, if anything, they would need to repurpose it for operations. If we've got too much in the fund balance for paved path maintenance, then I'd probably repurpose it to GCAT operations because they're running pretty lean. All
So
right.
what's in the fund balance now on the pay path?
Real quick. I can give like an approximation.
Yeah, sure. We've had all our bridge inspections, and that I don't think they'll be coming up soon. The elevated structures inspections.
So the beginning of this year, we had 520,000 in there. That's how it. When did we do the seal coat on the North Canyon like that?
It was in August.
This year?
Yeah.
Wonder where that got coated. Didn't hit this account.
I'm hoping they got coated there, because that's where it was supposed to go.
You can check up on that, Gabe.
Seal coat.
Yeah, it's like a $120,000 project. It's not showing up in this.
Been an invoice from Advantage Asphalt.
You usually do a really good job of
I know.
including your codes on all of them, so. Been errors, but
You have this code, right? This paved path maintenance code. Yeah. I don't know. It doesn't.
But I don't always code them. I do big projects, I code them, but I may have not coded that one.
All right, well, just check up on that, because it looks like it might have got miscoded. It might be in Bill's budget somewhere, or in Bill's account somewhere.
I didn't see it when I went through my ledger and stuff, but that doesn't mean I caught it.
All right, well, anyway, but that's that.
It's under 14 change.
But, at some point in time, that elevated pathway is going to probably get pretty expensive to maintain, Smash Valley Drive, et cetera. I think that it's good to keep that on reserve as much as we can.
Yeah.
Although, we could repurpose it to GCAT operations or anything having to do with active transportation and trails. All right, back to Fund 21. Let's take a look at that bottom line. So we're in the red, 471,844, which we'll need to budget to pull from the fund balance, I think this fund's got about 3.5 million in it. You know, and we've had 970,000 in capital equipment, so, you know, drawing off the fund balance for these like one-time big purchases is not a bad thing. Go to this contributions line, this is where we budget to pull money out of the bank. That should balance the Fund 21. So total $4.76 million budget. Got that zeroed out. Then Bill's also got a capital projects fund that has about 2.5 million in it, or did at the beginning of the year. I don't know what we spent out of that. So with this one, there's basically two revenue streams. One would be a transfer from Fund 21, like if there were Bill wanted to send money from Fund 21 to this capital projects fund, that would be it. Then we've got this other line item, which is the money coming out of the bank. If we draw money out of the bank, I tend to just budget to draw what we've got out of the bank and spend it. We don't have to, but it makes it possible for us to. Doesn't look like we've done anything out of it this year, right, Bill?
No.
And so next year I'm going to budget to spend it, but we may or may not. But if we
We
do
may
decide
not.
to,
You know,
what would you?
well, these are kind of some long-term things, but I know that once again, the Safe Streets for All, you know, that could be a reality and pretty quick, because our UTMP access to planning document, you know, so I mean, it could fire up, got the grant. I mean, it could really-
All right, so with this budget, then we're covered because we can spend 2.5 million, which is basically the fund balance. So, you know, whatever our match ends up being, and if the whole project runs through Grant County and we seek reimbursement, then we, you know, we'd have to budget for the whole thing. And anyway, we're covered, you know, on that part of the budget. That does it for roads and bridges.
We also, you know, I don't know if we need to talk about this here or maybe commission, I don't know, but, you know, we have the opportunity to put in again for the RAISE grant for the work on Sand
I
Flat.
didn't hear you.
The RAISE grant, to work on, it's a federal grant to do
Paving
some,
Sand Flats a little further.
yeah, working on Sand Flats Road. Possibility, once again, of putting in for, and that's, I think in 2024, or maybe it's 5, the Cane Creek for federal lands,
Flat.
the flat grant.
Where are we on that?
That's why it's important to keep that, that money in there.
So are we still in a situation where they're wanting the feasibility study done?
Yeah, the developer down there is kind of gone above and beyond and had an engineering firm do quite a bit of that feasibility. And with the thoughts of when that time for the application to come in to insert that into it, you
Do
know.
you know what the outcome was on what they've done?
I don't think it's complete. It's probably like a 60%, you know, but I think that there's plenty of time to.
So we were thinking like 12 million, right?
Yeah, the longer it's gonna be more than that now.
Oh, yeah, that's what I mean. But that's why I think the committee looked at it and thought, oh, there's not nearly enough money
Sure.
to do the job. So I guess it's still in the feasibility stage, but cross that bridge when we get to it, whenever it comes.
You know, and I'm not
But,
sure.
yeah, I mean, we've applied for that flat grant well before that development was
Oh, yeah.
ever even
Oh, yeah.
conceived of.
Regardless of what happened to that flat grant, you know, the development's gonna have to improve their frontage.
Yeah, so FLAP stands for Federal Lands Access Program. And, you know, the gist of the original idea before that development ever came along was improving the road for safety's sake, because there's lots and lots of mountain bikers that go down that Mossaback. That they don't have a lane to ride in or anything like that.
Yeah, it's pretty dicey sometimes.
So are there any plans for the original proposal, or is how much wider there?
There's some concept plans, yeah. Set engineering actually had, pretty low level, but a couple of different options.
Could you send those and, or anything that's pertinent to what's being contemplated now? I mean, I'm just curious to know. I mean, it's a long stretch of road and there's a place where, it's up against the curb.
I think I already seen the application, which is all I have, and I seen a flat application from last time.
Oh, maybe I forgot.
But
Yeah,
I don't
that-
know,
that-
set engineering those
that
engineers for
wouldn't-
the developer,
Yes.
so I don't have any of that.
So that was kind of their part of that feasibility that they worked on, just some really high level concepts.
Maybe touch base with, what's his name, Jeff?
Yeah,
With Jeff and see where they're at.
Yeah.
Report back to
Yeah.
me and Kevin.
sure.
It'd just be interesting to see more specifics about what range of possibilities is being contemplated. on the road.
I
Yeah,
think the worst part was right.
the portal area. Really the feasibility the hang up, I guess, with the decision committee. Number one, the dollar amount, because they generally don't fund, a $12 to $15 million project all at once, and kind of doing it in phases wasn't real practical, yeah. And all the utilities, right-of-way acquisitions, all that's on the county, before the project even, that can go towards a match, but it's got to be lined out. So that's part of that feasibility. If you can even get the right-of-way, get the utilities moved, those kind of things.
Any other questions for Bill while we're at it?
But yeah, I'll see if I can get it to you. But they can try to
Thank you. All right, well, I guess that's it, Bill. Thank you.
So that was,
All righty.
Actually, I guess I did have one question. So on the B road funding, I guess it depends on gas prices, but it also depends on our mileage of B roads.
Yes,
So,
and population.
okay,
do they
Does-
take in the count? Just our local population or just the?
so is the state subsidy, is it generous so that if we had an extra, 100 miles of, road and B road and someone up in the Book Cliffs or something, do we make a profit on that because they reimburse us more than it costs to maintain it, or is it the
It
opposite?
depends on the road.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do it like a weighted mile.
Okay,
So they changed it recently, 3-4 years ago, to a gravel road and just a natural surface road. Used to be weighted different. So, but they're weighted the same now, so you get the same. So they're weighted at 2. So if you got 1 mile, they'll pay you for 2. Okay. So an
For any-
asphalt road is weighted at 5. So if you got 1 mile, they'll pay you for 5 miles of it.
Okay.
But it's all center line miles. It's not lane miles. So my thoughts are all these outback roads that we do, 1,200 plus miles. Be out in the desert, Book Cliffs, Triangle, pay for whatever we do here.
okay, so you think that the remote roads are subsidizing the?
Absolutely.
Okay, that was my question.
I think that was what your question.
Yeah.
Yeah, they redid the formula a few years ago, and it really bumped up our B road allocation quite a bit.
Yeah.
Because, before that, before we passed the optional transportation tax, like, this was a very, very tight budget.
Yeah. And I'm real
remember
pleased
that.
with the fact that, we've got some fund, capital in the capital project fund. I mean, we have some potential to have some pretty good projects. If we keep
But roads are still so expensive that this
Oh, yeah.
money is just matched. by
Match
the
one,
water.
yeah.
Or going for CIB or some other
Yeah,
type of.
Whatever we can find, but you know, like if we wanted to do Spanish Valley Drive overlay, you know, that's gonna be way more money than we have in the bank.
Yeah, it's hard to find any kind of money to, you know, to, like grant money to, you know, to do that kind of work.
Yeah, CIP's kind of the go-to, but these are some big projects that are on the horizon with that. Traffic count gets up to that point, and you know, we do have a impact fee for it, but
Is that slated to be the impact fee?
I always do the budget to spend the whole amount that's in the balance.
Are we gonna do a new update on impact fees? I know
Yeah, we gotta
Talked
do
about
that, we gotta do the study, and so we're still collecting on it. So yeah, we'll revise it, you know, pretty soon, I think. But we gotta do a new study of that RFP now. But still, because it's limited to only 6-year horizon,
Right.
it just, it's not a huge amount of money. to get from impact fees. So I don't really bank on it very much, you know, it's like maybe 100,000 a year or something.
Is that 6 year, is that a project completed or a project just the
It
funds
just has to be,
allocated?
it has to
the
be spent
project?
within 6 years.
So it actually has to be spent.
So,
allocated.
you know, you can make a capital facilities plan with roads and everything that goes out much further than that. But when you receive the money, the clock starts ticking. You've got 6 years to spend it before you have to give it back.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it doesn't make sense to collect impact fees for projects that are further out than 6 years, because you could end up cutting checks and sending it back, which is what happened to GWSSA. They had to refund a lot of impact fees 1 year.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's something, you know, we just gotta,
Well, and not to throw the kink in the cogs and be, you know, the road department is still owed some impact fees, but
oh yeah, so I mean, yeah, that's another thing. We actually, yeah, that's a good reminder, because I guess your predecessor had spent money on stormwater with B-Road money that wasn't eligible. And so that's a debt that the impact fee has been paying off. We kind of deferred that for a few years, but I guess we should, you know, I kind of see it as, you know, like when you're poor and you have $100,000 medical debt, you pay, you know, like 500 a year or whatever. You know, it might take you 2 lifetimes to pay it off, but as long as you pay something, then you don't get in trouble. And that's the way I kind of like, you know, that's what we've been doing, is transferring that money over. It's a bummer, but you know, it was a result of an official audit, you know.
Right.
It wasn't like something that we did, you know, out of our own discretion. All right. Anything else before we?
I don't think so.
Safety?
If nothing for me, then.
Okay, thanks, Bill. You just send the sheriff in and his crew.
Yeah. Hey. Get your butts in there.
Supposed to be the first person walking through that door, but here I am.
Well, we're ready for you guys, whenever you want to go tell Steve we're.
Yeah, they all.
We're ready.
There.
Hi there.
Hello, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
are you guys today?
Enjoying-
Tired of numbers yet? Not yet. That happened.
Probably will be by the time we're done.
That's,
Here comes the.
Where do you want to start?
let's just start,
It's very complicated.
basically kind of, so you guys kind of know what's gonna happen is Al's gonna handle a lot of the majority of the sheriff's office budget, the patrol end of it. Jen will handle EM. Jim's gonna handle SAR. That way, we're consistent upon my retirement, everything comes across and everybody's kind of in level with what's going on, so.
Okay, so you care which department we start with?
Let's start with, since Shan's on an airplane, let's start with his and we'll get the gel out of the way. If you have any questions about it, I'll try to get that answered.
Okay, so I think what we want to do, since these are fairly complex budgets, is, touch base on the things that have changed significantly versus 2022.
Okay.
And I think Shan's done a pretty good job of putting a lot of details in this
Right.
time. So that's good.
Hey, Steve, can I start with what he's proposed for positions?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. So in the jail, we have a proposed Spillman analyst / evidence tech. This would be a new position, full-time. And I have a draft job description on that one. And then the other proposition is an increase to the jail admin assistant, who's going to take over that program kind of coordination for the ankle monitors and all of that new,
On the DUI program.
yeah, the DUI programming.
New one.
So we'll have an increased duties on that job description as well.
And basically what it is on that other one with the evidence tech and the Spillman, they call them the special, it's our records management system, it's our jail system, and it's getting complex enough that one of the dispatchers is handling it right now, along with 2 or 3 of the deputies. And it's just basically overwhelming them and it's taking up too much of their time. So I'd like to move that to a civilian position. And along with our evidence, I want to start moving it away from the patrols, or from the sworn guys, back to the civilian. That person would be working with Ronnie in our office as well. And that doubles up on our evidence stuff. So that's kind of the explanation of why that position is what we're looking for.
And why is the evidence tech in the jail rather than?
It's basically, it's going to be in our office as well. We just kept it cleaner, kept it all in one place.
But we haven't entered it in at all yet, have we?
Nope, it's not in the budget yet. It's on the position list.
So, what we normally do, Steve, we'll wait till the end of the process, so we see how much money we've got to work with.
Right.
And we're not going to have any.
Yeah, I get that.
But, we'll evaluate things once we know what the bottom line is on the general fund, which we should know next week. And so part of the final budget meeting, will be to review all the position requests.
Right.
Those really, though, end up being on the commission. So
Exactly.
once we do our tentative budget, we'll kind of just, what this board tends to do, is just forward the list on and say it's up to the commission.
Right.
But here's the bottom line, you guys decide what you want to do. And so the meetings that we'll hold in November with the full commission will be to cover these kind of new position requests across the whole county. And if we have the resources to approve any of them, we'll have to prioritize which ones. That's how that works. But it's not in the budget yet. None of these new position requests are in the budget numbers that you're seeing. There'll be kind of an addendum to the budget, a tentative budget. Okay. We might just have to read Shan's notes.
Yeah.
Unless you guys know anything about this stuff. But it looks like we're adding 3,000 to travel for more trainings.
Right. Trainings and meetings.
And how come you need more?
Just training, and the training starting increase. We're looking at maybe more specialized training for some of the jail staff, like in disciplinaries and some of those kind of things as things progress. Certifications, we're looking at the Sheriff's Association as a whole is looking at a new accreditation process that we're trying to build. So there'll be some
if that goes through, there'll be some training and stuff involved with it.
All right, office supplies went up a little bit. I'm sure everyone realizes the cost of commodities has gone up. Equipment maintenance has gone up by 2,000. So it says increase is for maintenance on ovens and gel washers and dryers. This budget is also for maintenance on cell door locks. And the door computer system, the locks that broken or damaged can cost approximately 2,000 per lock. In the 5 years since the remodel, we have had to purchase 6 locks.
Usually what that happens is you get an inmate that's out of control, they'll like kick them or slam into them, that'll bend them. There's usually a lot of that.
So it looks like we're adding about 10,000 to professional and technical. See attachments. Let me get our attachments up right here. See what Shan's got. So got DNA, SMA. What's that? Do you know?
Is it the DNA testing for the inmates?
So it doesn't automatic. So it's let me read it real quick. It's like try to share the screen. It doesn't automatically bring that up. I can find. All right. Cool. Try that. This is in, browser.
And I call Shan, but he's on an airplane on his way to Chicago.
He's the one that chose this date.
Yeah, I know. Do you think that wasn't planned?
So, I don't know. you
So
wanna
that's
read it and
CML,
see?
that's the,
Renewal of DNA fusion software maintenance agreement,
yeah,
$2,029. So
Right.
that's that.
that's okay.
And then there's more. Policy and procedure development.
Right. That would be through Deland, either Deland and Associates or Nigel. That's been an ongoing, that's our yearly subscription for a policy.
Well, I'm just trying to figure out what the new 10,000 is for. So this is policy stuff. 9,600 for a manual update cost.
And I'm sorry, I thought Shan talked with you about this before he left.
I might have mentioned it. I haven't seen like the details on this. Creation of manual.
Yeah, that's all policy.
So is this hasn't been done yet?
It's in the process, it's still in the works.
So yeah, I thought
It's
that
been
we-
going for a year, 2 years now.
Yeah, but we already signed this.
Yeah.
So we're not talking then about the
No, the creation,
that we probably already paid for that, right?
yeah, I think that should already been paid for.
Then we've got the,
Because then there should be just the yearly annual code, the fee.
yeah, so that's the 9,600.
Right.
There is, a component of our liability insurance that's associated with the jail and sheriff's office policies.
Right.
I think there's actually maybe there's some potential grant funding available too if we get our policies.
That I don't know.
I think there might be. I'm not
So
sure.
who would that be through?
I can, I was gonna ask Steve about the accreditation too. I know they'll give us a discount on our policies if we have that accreditation. So I can look into that a little more.
Because I know that they used to give us, what, 2% back when we went to Lexipol, and some of that was through the trust.
Yep. So it'll still be through the trust. So I know we're getting the 2% on the Lexapol, but I don't think we updated them on the jail side. So I'll make sure we get that to 'em.
It's still, like I said, it's still only a year old, I think, when we started it.
Another attachment.
That's live scan.
What's that?
Fingerprints. That's what we had to have. This was one that originally Motorola told us that we weren't gonna have to pay for this, and then it turns around and they did bill us for it. It's for the software updates for the fingerprints to go into the system.
So we paid that this year too.
Yes.
So this is another 4,600 approximately.
Yeah.
All right, so that's everything you attach. You just try to share all the screens. And get back. Enterprise itself. All right, so we went from a budget of 15,625 to 25,000. I'm assuming that like 15 or that 10,000. I guess it's a combination of all these things.
All those
combined.
things, yeah.
Cell phone allowance, it went up like $300. Is that, is there any reason for that?
I think it's when we switched over to that new phone program.
Oh, yeah, because all right, so maybe you can explain what the
Well, they-
shift is.
Yeah, and basically what we did is instead of paying a cell phone allowance anymore, we switched over to all county-owned phones. So it tightens up our policies. They were issued to jail staff for work issues. And then it tightens up, so basically it's all government phones, so for grandma, subpoenas, those kind of things. So the whole sheriff's office switched over. We don't pay the allowance anymore, just all use government phones.
Okay, I think that's actually a pretty decent deal.
Yeah, it actually is. I think in the long run, it's gonna save us money.
All right, moving on to miscellaneous supplies. We've got a little spreadsheet here that's got a million things on it. So this is, all kinds of stuff.
This is usually where he buys his clothing, his gloves, all the stuff for the jail.
I can't really tell why it's going up, but
I think it's just inflation.
well, it's like double. So it went from 7,500.
Well, and our inmate counts are going up. From the last couple of years of COVID, when our numbers are so low, we're now, instead of being in the 15 to 20, we're averaging 36 to in the 40s and 50s in our inmates.
What percentage of the inmates are like outside ones that we get paid for?
Right now, there's state, I think 8 state right now.
And how many local?
The rest would be local. I think when I asked Shan before you left, we were at 36. So 8 or the rest of them would be county inmates.
All right, then paper products in the kitchen, again, we were going from 8,500 to 12,500.
Right.
And then the note increase due to cost of supplies and increase in
Right.
inmate population.
And that's something else to mention too, Kevin, is the inmates, between condition of probation inmates and state prison inmates, we brought in 220,000 in revenue last year.
I can look.
I think one was 150 for the state. Like, what it is conditions of probation. If somebody's here and violates their probation or parole, they come in and they stay 72 hours or whatever APP. We can bill for those days. So then if we have the state inmates, then we get I believe it's $54 a day for state inmates. So we hold, and we get, those are the 8 that we get paid for every day. And then if we offer treatment, we get another bump on top of that.
So the state is like the amount that we're able to go for the state inmates, does it cover more than our expenses or less?
It's covering a lot of them. It's not covering all of them, but it's covering a lot of them.
So last year, let me see, the total between the two.
And then the other thing we did this year too is last year we were holding pretty much exclusively female inmates. This year we switched back and went back to males, and then we can actually hold, so there'll be more males to come. So we'll actually up that count some. And then hopefully after the legislature this year, they're looking for another day rate increase, so we'll actually get a little more money too.
What's the capacity of the jail?
64?
Okay, so we're not.
No, we're not
well
maxed
below.
out by anyway.
But could you do, like, if suddenly there were bunches of state inmates available, do you have the staff to deal with it? I mean, what's the limit?
We do.
I don't know that we really make a profit, but
No,
And then we're subsidizing the state, just doing them a favor, or?
no, we're not. We're not subsidizing the state.
But they're not subsidizing us either.
Well, they're covering, the Shan said that they were, when I talked to him about it, because I asked him kind of the same question. And he says, right now, they're covering a lot of our expenses. He thought all these covers of like all the clothing and those kind of things, they were covering that with what they were paying.
well, we brought in about 150,000 last year.
Is that including COP and? Because I thought he told me 220.
Well, he's revising it this year. He's bumping it up. Let me see what. He has increased the projection. Last
Okay.
year was 150,000. Then he dropped one of them down though. So 200,000 is what he told me to plug in.
Okay. 'Cause he told me 220, so.
And, you know, he's got a different figure now, but I talked to him the other day, and I just plugged these numbers in together. So,
Okay. Perfect.
That's what we're bringing in from the state, 200,000.
Sorry, I just was. Didn't mean to throw us off track.
But yeah, I mean, I think it would be worth trying to calculate the expense side of that.
Right.
See-
And actually, that's gonna happen because UAC is putting that, we're actually looking at putting that together right now because they need all of our expenses to put into the new formula for the new day rates that they're trying to get. So they're gonna look at that. I mean, it's gonna be everything, I think, from building costs all the way through.
Okay,
So
so
that's
so
being
so the
generated.
rate is some kind of negotiation between
Yes.
UAC and the legislature.
Yeah.
And UAC
Yeah.
needs to back up what it actually.
Yeah, yeah, the sheriffs and DOC, and it's basically, I'm trying to remember how the formula, because we were talking about it Friday. DOC takes what their day rate is, we look at it, and then they mix it, they have a formula they put it into, which I'm not exactly sure of. And that's how this rate is coming forward. But what they're hoping to do is that they'll put this in play, because every year it's kind of a negotiation thing back and forth. They really want to put this formula in play to where every year everybody knows if inflation or whatever goes up this 3%, that's going to go up 3%. If it goes down 2%, it'll go down 2%. They want to get this consistent formula in place, which it's kind of always been a battle to get that, but they feel like maybe they get that done this year.
And then the decision about like how many state inmates we have, is that like under our control?
That's under our control. And basically what we try to do is they go through a screening process. So we try to make sure we're not doing gang affiliations, that we're not bringing predators on prey. And so, yeah, Shan basically looks at every inmate and decides who's, we don't want to bring a lot of problems here. So we make sure we filter it out, get the best inmates we can that'll fit within our facility.
Well, yeah, it'd be good. I think they need to increase it.
Yes, I agree. I think everybody in the state would agree with you on that one.
Otherwise, I have to go to a lot more jails upstate.
Yep.
Okay, so moving on to paper products, 8,500 to 12,500, same deal, increase in cost of goods and increased population. Same kind of scenario with chemicals going up 2,000. Gel food, Shannon and I actually projected where we're going to close the year, which is going to be way over budget. We had budgeted 85,000. We're probably going to hit 113,000. So we kind of carried that across with a slight increase for 115,000 for gel food. Clothing allowance is for all the deputies in the jail combined. We used to, you see that, we used to like have a new account for everybody that hasn't paid the month.
Right.
Stopped doing that, so now there's just one. Miscellaneous services, same budget. Inventory, we do that. So I've got shelving,
Right.
office chairs, floor mat. Booking 1, booking 2, I don't know what that is, you know what that is.
Those are gonna be computers.
Computers for the,
Okay,
for the booking stations.
desktops. So it looks like we've got, these are all desktops and laptops look like. So basically shelves, office chairs and computers. Right?
Yep.
There's a CCTV thing to control it. Schooling. 10,000 budget, which is the same as before. That's going the same, so we're still hiring 5 staff in total between jail and dispatch. And then increase the trustee incentive account. I don't know, I can't remember what that is.
He's bumping the pay up for the trustees, like $1 more a day.
That's the end of the jail budget. So looks like it has gone up from 2,631,000 to 2,706,000. And that's not including any position changes.
Is there a separate revenue page for the jailers?
That is, we just covered it. That's all it was. So we cover it out of
200,000 from the state and everything else from it.
property taxes and sales tax. Jails are actually pretty difficult to fund. There's a lot of like funding sources that will fund a broad range of things, but they'll specifically say, do not fund jails. And so, I mean, it's property tax and sales tax. Okay, any questions on that budget?
No.
All right, you want to go to the sheriff budget?
Yep, let's go to the sheriff.
Do you have any position requests?
Renee, just to unfreeze the 2 airport, right?
Unfreezing the 2 that we froze this year due to the step changes, but no new creation.
Is that something that you need to do, or is it just?
We
No.
just,
Go
when we
ahead,
did the step increase, we agreed to just not hire those 2 positions for the year, so.
Well, I remember though that there was some kind of confusion about whether it was required or not based on
They're,
FAA requirement.
they're not totally required right
Yes.
now, but the FAA will help fund those positions if we get them. They would-
Okay. Well, if that's the case, we need to like, figure out what that.
Right.
revenue
They'll cover.
Right.
So-
I can get with TSA and we'll,
Yeah, so
We'll get
if you
that.
guys want to include that in the position request, that.
Okay, yep.
So we know how much will be offset.
right.
Perfect.
They're talking about even bringing bigger planes in.
See, and when
Without.
it hits that next
Then you're gonna have to
inflatement,
have,
then it's not gonna be an option. We're gonna have to have,
you have to be how many minutes away?
well, right now we have to be within 10.
Well, if it hits the employment option, it's not minutes away. You have to staff the airport.
And it
We
wasn't
don't have
okay.
that luxury. When you hit that number, they require you to staff the
When you
airport.
hit the size of the plane or the number of the
It's the
plane?
number of employments.
And how close are we?
We were getting real close and then COVID shut it down.
Yeah,
But we need to
Yeah.
meet with them and see. And there's no wiggle room. I was in a large meeting with sheriffs in the western US and that. And the FAA, they just said, you have no wiggle room here. If you hit these employments, you will provide the security and the staffing and we'll pull it. Yeah, it's a hard
We were
line.
talking about that a lot
Right,
before COVID hit.
yeah, and it was because we hit this next one, when we looked at the 2 people, is because we hit that 10,000 employment mark. I think, wasn't that it? Wasn't it? the
I think it was
10,000?
10. That's why we give out 2. But when we hit a certain mark, you have to have a supervisor and deputies out here.
Only when the plane, only when the planes are
No,
coming.
no.
one is TSA. You have, not
You-
24/7, but during the hours of operation. When
That's
TSA is there, we'll have to have
We
staff.
have to have someone there.
So it would be,
It's gonna be a big undertaking.
It's a
Yeah,
big
when we hit that
undertaking.
next
It's
level.
gonna be hard.
yeah, it's, you never know, you think it's so exciting that we're
Right.
making that
Well,
airport
and
work.
didn't they say it would be 737s? We'd have to be able to handle 737s or something
Or
like
they're
that.
going to a bigger plane.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, when is it, next year?
Is that what it is?
I think it's
Sure.
next year, because when Provo hit this, their lieutenant called me. They actually had to put a lieutenant, a sergeant, and deputies
See,
at the
this
Provo
is-
Airport.
So, yeah. That's something we can, when we look at this, what they're gonna fund, I'll ask them what they're looking at.
Right.
We can talk to TSA and see where they're at, because realistically, we haven't revisited it since
Since
COVID and all
pre-COVID,
this,
that's
so we
right.
kind of left it alone.
Because I think we're getting close.
Are we?
I can go and look up we can call Tammy, but yeah, we're getting close.
Okay.
And we think TSA is gonna fund this part of the position?
They fund part of the positions. They,
They do not have to.
no, that, they
That was
don't.
made very clear to me. They don't have to help fund it, but they do. Basically, there was a sheriff in Arizona that was biting back at him. And they basically told him, you're required to do this. and We do not have to help you fund it. So you better play nice or you'll be paying it all on your own.
And it kind of come back to when we signed the ESA agreement, it has something to do that we agree to that in the
Yeah.
ESA. So. But we need to do some more legwork on it, but that's something to be looming in our future.
So certainly something we want to keep in
Wow.
mind if we're pushing to get our employments above our threshold.
Yeah.
Now especially since
Well,
we're going Salt Lake as well.
Yeah, we get a lot of money for the airport, but it always comes with increased operations costs. Yeah. So.
That being said, Chris, those 2 positions are still in the sheriff's office budget for 2022. And I didn't take them out for 2023. So they're kind of in there since they were already approved. But
Oh, yeah, so, yeah,
Okay.
so we put the freeze on after we budgeted.
yeah, we
Right.
did. We put the freeze on in March, April, maybe.
Oh, so they're already in there. All right.
Yep.
Wow.
But I'll still track down some of that info.
Okay. Moving along here. To the line items. Subscription memberships the same. Travel staying the same budget. Office expenses staying the same. Equipment maintenance staying the same. Utilities staying the same. So utilities gone up some across the county, but it looks like there's still wiggle room in this budget.
And one of the things that we're trying to do in our professional and technical, that it may actually drop it a little bit. When we do the new hires, we send them for polygraph exams along with psychologicals. We're looking at bringing a system into our office now that actually does the eye scans on a computer. So we won't have to pay for outside polygraphs anymore. We'll have all of our new hires done on that, and then that brings a new investigative tool into our office, which is one of the things we've learned after the double homicide that would help move us along with things in some of these bigger cases. So that's actually one of the things that's going to help us and maybe save us some.
So what is that?
It's the
It's eye detect.
eye detect.
It's Watson Investigations and consultants do it. It's the latest in technology.
Is it one of these things that's up on the screen right
Should be eye detect is what we call it.
Yeah, which,
now? I'll see it on there.
no, Shannon didn't get it in. Oh, did he put it in?
Might have put it somewhere else.
Yeah,
Seems like a different spot.
no, it would have been, it might have been under 800, under inventory.
Is it a machine?
It is a
Like
machine.
from Clockwork Orange?
It is a machine that then.
Yeah, it runs off of alpha laptop. There's some really interesting things about it though, and it's more viable. They say it's if not better right now than polygraph. It's better than voice stress analysis. And it takes the human variable out of it.
Yeah, there it is. 7750, so it's in inventory.
Yeah, okay.
We also talked about MOU and background checks.
That's something else we may look at too, is once we get this system here, we make a contract with the city and some of these other agencies to do their pre-employment. So we might actually make a little money with it. Yeah, I don't know if they're willing, but when I talked to their assistant chief yesterday, he was very high on this system.
All right, where were we? So the
Mhm.
vehicle leases, how you guys doing on your, how many more leases do you need to get?
I think we're getting close. I think there's still two or three out. I'd have to ask Cody for sure, but we're getting closer. We're finally starting to see some vehicles roll in. There's 3 vehicles sitting at the Premier right now getting outfitted. So we're getting there. Matter of fact, we're looking at starting to sell some of our first ones. Still need a Jeep. Jeeps are hard to come by.
All right, fuel gone up, current projections for this year, a little increase for next year. Then professional and technical, so open this up, see.
A lot of that's was the DNA testing, or the DNA testing for the double homicides, the polygraphs.
Yeah, hold on, it's kind of.
Yeah.
So we got Lexipol, Spillman, office copier, office water, GPS tracker, CETX, what's that?
You want to explain that out?
Yes, I will. ZX is what we use from Unified. It's the latest in phone technology analysis. So what it does is it uses different programs to basically create geofences and locate phones that are in an area, and that was really critical for our homicide case. Right now, I've got 2 investigators that are finishing up today on training. They took information for 2 cases as a study while they were being trained. And they're confident that they have 2 people that they were looking at as possible suspects from cases that we had open still. It's called ZX, and it's the way of the future. It's in comparison to like when we have a missing child or a missing person, we would have a phone ping. This is a phone ping that's enhanced by RTT data. It gives exact GPS locations. You can create a geofence, it shows movement, and it gives you a lat long almost instantaneously. So it's a lot of bigger agencies have gone to it. For the cost that it is for the year, that's just to support the system. The training is already done for this year for our 2 guys that are trained on it. And of course, we can send them to more advanced training, but for the $5,000 that we're getting from it, and the fact that we're going to solve 2 old cases instantly when they get back, hopefully, I think it's well worth an investment to enhance our investigative skills.
So, I mean, it
Yes, sir.
sounded interesting, but I got lost at the beginning.
Okay.
So this is like basically tracking where cell phones are going, but you can go back in time.
And it has historical data, exactly. So you can see who was where when, basically. That's another option, or a more immediate live version.
And the
More
geo-
refinement?
What's
Does it
that?
look more refined, geographical refinement?
It actually, you could narrow it down to
It's
a
not
10-foot
instantaneous
radius.
though.
Yeah.
And it's, and it's a lot of this has to be done with search warrants and a lot of that.
Exactly. Yeah.
You just can't.
Yep.
You gotta have a search warrant. to use it.
So it's not useful.
No, not for search and rescue. I mean, yeah. it's not an
Exigency,
instant-
it would be, yeah, it would be more crime based than that, yeah. So missing juvenile with a suspect.
And the geofencing means you get notified if someone goes into an area?
Or if that person were to leave it, or who is actually in that area.
So basically, like when we had the double homicide, Salt Lake County come in and they put the geofence down. How big of an area did they do? I don't remember.
It's a pretty big radius
And it showed us every cell phone that had been in that area
on that particular.
on
time.
that particular day.
All right, so then we got the inReach plan, polygraph, psychological exams, miscellaneous badges, plaques. So that budget's actually, sorry, going down a little bit by about 5,000. Cell phones, again, about the same, a little bit more than last year. Special department supplies gone down from this year's budget. Got postage revenues, ammo, gloves, miscellaneous bottled water. It's meeting supplies, investigations, patrol supplies, laser maintenance, clothing, shooting supplies, blocks, traffic vests, backpack for the medical examiner. So just supplies for everybody. We're going from $50,000 budget to $32,658. We've got our closing allowance for all the sheriff's office staff. Capital equipment, let's see what we got here. 96,486. We've got 30,000 to upgrade Spillman server.
That's a server.
So is that like equipment?
Yeah. Yeah, that's, our server's about to max out on data. We need to put a bigger one.
All right, then here we've got the 2 speed trailers for, so is this, so they're, each trailer's 11,898. Shield for patrol, what's the shield?
The shield, it's we have like an active shooter or anything like that. It's just a body proof shield that the guys can carry it if they have to make an entry on something.
The commissioners could use that in the
You want me to bring one in?
We did for a while, need one.
Body cameras. So you wanted to upgrade all your body cameras.
Yeah,
right?
basically a lot of them are getting old. Al, do you want to go into that?
Yeah, it's, we got into the body cam system, and body cams are just something that we need for every encounter with the public and the community. So, as we go forward, we've started off, just mid-COVID, we went into those new systems, and they've got upgraded systems, and these cameras that we have right now are kind of outdated. Just like the technological loop where, just a couple of years makes a huge difference. And so we plan on upgrading our body cam systems. And then we're going to get 12 new units, and we're going to take the existing units that we have. We're going to take those 8, and we're going to actually refit our investigators with body cams to use those, because they're not usually out and about, and they don't need the same functionality that a patrol unit would need. Right now, we actually have a B-View system, which is a camera that's no longer made. That's what a lot of my investigators are using, myself included. They don't even make that camera anymore. We're still upgrading that to, we're still using that. So with this new upgrade, we'll get 12 new units for patrol deputies. Those are the guys that are on the front lines. And then we'll take the 8 and we'll bring those back into investigations. And slowly, hopefully, we'll be able to rebudget eventually and get new units for everyone and just kind of stay upgraded.
And another thing with our unit, these new, or the units we're going to, the body cameras and the car cams all tie in together. So they all talk to each other. So like the V-View and the cars and the cameras don't talk to each other. These ones will all be on the same system that all downloads to our records management. It's a more efficient. I think we get better coverage.
And it's all tied to Motorola, which is Spillman as well.
It's all
So
tied
it's
to
all
our
integrated. So everything that we have right now, because we actually looked at going to a different system, and it's just way more cost effective. And then the contract over the years would be kind of a good thing as well. We also, with the new cameras, we have a redaction module, which is really important for certain things that involve civilians that we need to redact and things like that, which and with any kind of a request for footage, that's really helpful too. And all the new cameras have that kind of system built in.
So on the speed trailers, the ones you're ordering are quite a bit more expensive than the ones that Bill was looking at. Right, there's some extra features.
The ones that we were looking at, they do traffic data recording. They'll do. Well, Al, you're talking to the salesman that day. I'm trying to remember what all.
Actually focused on the architect, but but it kind of lays it out here. I have a handout. Of course, flashing warning lights, which is pretty much a standard. It can do data collection as well, so we can look at that, speeds and dates.
Data, like how many cars?
Yeah,
exactly.
It'll average speed. It's like the one we have now. It has the data on it. So it'll count the cars in and out of an area, it counts the average speed, it detects, I'm trying to remember what else it does. Glenn,
Yeah.
actually, the county roads used it quite a bit. For road, so we can monitor traffic on an area.
It has a timer, an on-site timer as well, so we can turn it.
Yeah.
We don't have any traffic volume and stuff.
We have had complaints, from people that don't like it flashing at nighttime.
There you go.
And so one person says, we need a speed sign out here. And then the other person across the street's like, no, we don't get that. thing."
Yeah, oh, trust me, I know. We'll put flashing, like we put flashing speed limit signs up, and yeah, some are happy and some are upset.
Yeah, so I think it's good to be able to.
But we're getting enough, I mean, the Bill's getting enough count for it, we have the one and it stays, we can't keep it in enough places. So it's gonna be good to have a couple more to keep them around.
Okay, moving on to inventory. So this year we've got a budget of 55,000. And next year the request is for 84,000. Go over what some of this stuff is. Got ballistic plates, that's on what is it, standalone ballistic plate.
Yeah, that's actually for the new, that one's just for the new guys, right? If we did the full personnel of the people that we still needed to do. The helmets, our helmets are
Exactly.
aging out, or 12, Al, I'm sorry, I told you you're gonna handle this.
No, you're good.
I'm gonna shut
So, what
Great
number,
habits, huh?
we've been back and forth on the specific numbers on the equipment. How many helmets or how many standalone plates do we find?
8.
8, yeah. So what that will be is that will be for the 4 new positions, the 2 that we have, and then the 2 that we're gonna bring out from the airport. And then I have 4 sets that are going to expire this year of body armor that was issued to deputies 5 years ago. And so what they have now is they have a new version of a standalone plate. Initially, the standalone plates, that's a rifle plate that you put in front of your body armor. When you wear that with the equipment we have now, that has to be worn a specific way. And without that exact position, the plate, it's viable. If it's not in that position, like if you were to take that plate and put it behind your body armor that you have on in your carrier, it would not be as functional. And that's not something that you can do. They've come up with the concept now to where you could take a standalone plate, so you're on patrol, you could put that plate under, over, anywhere in front of your main, body organs, and that plate is viable without any of the other body armor. That's kind of the way people have gone. It's interesting too, because the price point 5 years ago when we bought that plate, that armor plate to go with that body armor was $800. You can see the price point difference now. It's half the cost. They've come way up in technology. It's about the same size, a little lighter, but that's where we're at with that. Thinking of slowly going into that process and equipping all of our new ballistic our body armor that we have with the plates and make the plates the standalone plates.
And just so you guys have a little more example, if you don't know, like our guys wear body armor every day. And it's rated to what they call a 3.8, which will handle most pistols and some small rifles. This rifle plate is for larger caliber rifles, so if they know they're going into an active shooter or anything else, they can put this extra protection on. That's what these extra plates are.
Okay, then we got some smaller stuff, tent meter, driver's license scanner. And then, do you guys have inReach yet, or you're doing a new thing?
This would be a new one for the patrol staff.
All right, so that's 15 of those. Exposure mask, night vision, patrol spikes, binoculars, investigation cameras, trail cameras, headsets. Eye detect system that we talked about previously, rangefinder, road deputy, tough book, desktop PCs, 5 of those. Is tough book
That's a laptop.
That's a laptop. Okay. And then more body armor, patrol body armor with the carrier, body armor inserts replaced. So that's all the inventory there. And, bit of an increase, it's like about 30,000 for this year. Then schooling, going from 15,000 this year to 22,000. So these are trainings, SWAT training, kind of tracking, desert snow, interdiction, drugs, sheriff's conference, level management, eye detect training, sex crimes, crime scene, fast interrogation, other training. Okay, now we're starting to get into the area where there's search and rescue. I'm just gonna skip over those and we'll come back to them. So we don't mix it all up. Drug task force.
Drug task force is probably gonna fix to get real active next year. We're in conversations with Chief Garcia about putting everything back together.
Okay, that was going on before.
Yeah, to where we've been kind of shy to, with everything that's kind of been going on with the city, we've been a little hesitant, but we're back and
Seems real stable now.
everything seems to be stable and we're gonna be re-engaging that. We've had a couple of brief conversations, but I see that taking off next year.
That's been missed.
All right, then we got a budget for Easter weekend.
That's
What do you need to
Chris,
spend out of that?
that's usually what covers all the food, the hotel rooms for additional staff, all that. One of the things I think I would like to maybe see is that change from Easter weekend to special event costs. To where Easter's one of our smaller events anymore where we're dealing with people and stuff. So I'd like to maybe see that recategorized or another one categorized for special, for big events. Because we're doing more than one of them a year.
Oh, yeah.
So you're saying the Easter weekend's not as big as it used to be? but
Easter's not. It's still big. We still have to have some additional staffing. But there's 2 or 3 other events now that are probably just as big, manpower taxing, that I think would, to be more fair, that I think we ought to split it into that so we can better describe what we're actually doing.
Well, I can change the name of it.
Yeah, just change it. I just think that to more of a big event or something like that.
Large event.
I mean,
Large
if we're gonna
event.
be spending, more and more money on special events, then I think we need to factor that into our special events permit fees.
That's the next one down, though, special events expense.
Oh, yeah, there is one. So, yeah, we've got 2,
Check.
so it's already
Right.
there.
But that's almost kind of 2 different things, because that's something a special event to me is something I think is permitted. Along those lines, and that we can bill for that, if they're gonna require something for the special event. Where this is gonna be, like I say, Easter weekend, we don't bill for that. There's car show.
Yeah.
That's where we assist the city in some of those. It just costs us money.
So, yeah, you've got,
What's that?
some,
That half marathon.
Yeah, the half, they pay for it. They pay for the deputies they use.
They do.
Yes.
so, yeah,
Steve, do you
that's-
want to touch on the increase that we did to the fee schedule for that reimbursement on the
Yeah,
deputies' wages?
actually, we just updated that. Since we had for the annual fee schedule, what we were charging, we felt like we weren't meeting the cost of what it was actually carrying the county. So this year on the fees, we took it $100 an hour, right, Renee?
Yep, that's correct. It
Right.
was
We took it-
65.
So, right, so any event that we
Per
bill that
deputy.
per deputy, they get $100. The county now will make sure they cover their costs along for the vehicle, the deputy and mileage. So we have that this year.
Which are you basing that on, chief deputy or who?
Yeah,
And it's actually a little bit less than the chief deputies. It's the chief deputy's overtime rate. Okay, came in, it was like 10 something. So
Are we factoring in like benefits costs too and all the,
yes, yep. So I did
Okay.
the salary and the benefit costs on that one.
all right, is that up for approval here pretty soon? Or did it already?
Yeah, the deadline for the fee schedule was today, so I think that goes soon.
I think there's probably a lot of other hidden costs that we can throw in on that too.
How many
Because salary
events do we
benefits not the
bill?
only cost.
Like you said, half marathon, they pay.
I'd say 8. Yeah, at least 8 or 10 a year.
And so, but then that expense that was labeled Mr. Weekend, that's for just crowded weekends where there's.
Yeah,
no-
that's just
no
crowded
one to bill.
weekends and we have to call guys out for additional staff to bring additional help in.
Yeah, we've had to bring-
And that's one of the good things that the sheriffs do. So say if I call and I need 3 extra deputies that come from, say, Severe. Well, there's an MOU in place with all the sheriffs that they cover their wages, their benefits and all that, as long as I cover their meals and their hotels. And that's the same thing if I send somebody to help them. So it's actually a really great MOU.
And all the sheriff's departments.
All the sheriff's offices are part of it. And so, and that's why, like, when we had the double, one of the things like the double homicide, Sheriff Rivera sent, what, 5 people down to help us with it? Just as long as we paid make their expenses, which was huge.
Do we often send people to other counties?
Not very often. In years past, we've sent some people to Wayne to help with, when they've had Mongols. The Mongols were there. We sent people to Kane County when their deputy was shot and killed. We really haven't. We don't send a lot. Once in a while, maybe every other year or so, but we don't do it.
Okay, so I think that's all the line items that are not search and rescue. Anybody have any more discussion on the sheriff's expenses?
So actually, one question I had is, I think it was true in the past that we were getting some money from the BLM.
Yes. Yes.
I'm assuming we have to account to make sure, we spent the money. I guess I just didn't see separate line items that show.
So I think that it's like billed hourly.
It's billed hourly.
Didn't it?
Yeah.
Is that, do we have an agreement with that?
Yep.
And
Normally, it's like, normally we get like $3,000 a year.
Yeah.
And this year they kicked us loose an extra 25,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
I have a feeling that's why. So
they should do that probably every year.
Amen. So, well, it's like I said, it took me 10 years to get the position funded for the BLM funded. I wish the Forest Service was.
So yeah,
funded.
that's up to 120,000, right?
Yeah.
Depending on the
Right.
time spent out there.
Right.
And yeah, we've got that budget in as expense reimbursement in the general. Anything else on the sheriff's budget? All right, let's move on to search and rescue, man. Ready, Jim?
Sure.
So we've just got the main search and rescue line here. Going from 35,000 to 45,000.
Right. So that's the catch-all account. So that funds a lot of the stuff that we spend on everything from, T-shirt replacement, lots of different subscriptions for dispatching, e-dispatches, which we get on our phones, and Garmin, InReach, things like that. And we always spend all of that. We've been consistent $35,000 a year for that. This year, we just blew past that because of really our equipment is falling apart. It's aging. So we already did a budget adjustment with Shannon, Chris, and I to move some money around from our inventory this year to cover what we're going to need to spend for the rest of the year. That's where our fuel expenses are, which of course went up. And so that's that. I'm asking for more. Actually, when you look at the whole, what we asked for last year compared to what we're asking for this year, it's the same, with one exception that I'll talk about in a few minutes. But by dropping our salary and benefits, ask a little bit lower than it covers.
So maybe we should talk about that a little bit, just
yeah.
I might need to make a note. So that's going to be on a agenda soon for our commission meeting, right? To do some step adjustments.
And that's part of it. Yeah, maybe Renee can talk to this, but we did discuss, or we've been talking, Steve and I and Renee and I have been talking for quite some time. All of our paid SAR members are either at step 1 or maybe 2. And there's been no adjustment. So I've got a little ask in there for estimating maybe $5,000 for step increases. I would hope maybe retroactive for people who've been in for years to reflect the time they put in.
And why this happened is the pay for performance policy as it currently stands does allow for part-time and the SAR members to get that pay for performance, though we've never done it. So we've been looking at how to do that. Jim, I owe you some numbers, so I'm sorry about that. But yeah, we were hoping to do something this year, and then that ask will be in for next year as well.
So, but one, I guess the thing to point out about that is if it gets approved, at this point, it's not included in the 2022 or 2023 budget.
Correct.
So we'd have to go in and fix that in the budget, in the employee spreadsheets that are on the back end of this program. Right, Renee?
Yep.
So I don't know what the cost is, but whatever it is would have to be added into this 2023 budget request for the search and rescue salary and benefits.
But when you've got each employee, I guess, lined out with certain hours, which turns into a certain amount of, however it is, that's, really, but the payroll for search and rescue is really contingent on how busy we are, and how much training we do. And there's a lot of back end work, maintenance work and, shuttling vehicles and all that kind of stuff that also gets in there. So I never program any of my people for a certain amount of hours, but people work anywhere from 10 to 15 hours a week. Some people don't work that, a few people work more than that.
Well, we have to guesstimate, so we
Yeah,
can calculate something.
Totally, yes.
And we usually will use a report on the prior year, so. So Renee, did we just carry across the hours from this year's budget to the next?
Yep, that's all I've done so far.
And Renee, I kind of guessed that if we did for next year, do a step increase for those that would deserve it, and there's a handful that would be able to get it. It wouldn't be much more than 5,000, if that, I don't know though. So you're going to get information eventually, so.
Yep.
All right, well, let me know as soon as you can, because we've got like one more week left to.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
So I guess I'll just read this note that's in there. This account pays for most of the purchases over the year and is broken into two parts: the operating expenses at 34,000 and maintenance and repairs at 11,000. Purchases throughout the year include gear, equipment repairs, equipment modifications, and tires, recurring subscriptions, radios, communication needs, miscellaneous supplies and materials, employee training, travel, EOC fuel trailer and POV mileage, reimbursement, office equipment, and many small purchases.
That's what we put in.
All right.
And more.
That's everything for search and rescue except for the salaries.
No, we've got more down here.
We've got a little bit more. We have a capital account. We've got an inventory account. That's about it.
So we've got capital here, which I assume would be, well, let's bring it up and see what it is. So we've got a Polaris Ranger.
So, yeah, so that's an ask for next year. I always ask for capital equipment and it never gets funded, but this coming year, we're asking for 60,000, and the giant asterisk on that is that we got a state of Utah Department of Outdoor Recreation grant to pay for a new Polaris Ranger and all the work and all the equipment and modification for that Ranger, which costs about $60,000. So we haven't had a new piece of rolling stock in, I would think, maybe 3 or 4 years. And as we continue to use these Rangers, the roads, trails get rougher and rougher, and they keep breaking more and more often. So we're excited about getting this. So 75% of that 60,000 has been awarded already. And we will not, that money is good for, I think it's a year or so, or a year and a half even. But what we're going to start doing is start building that Ranger, purchase the Ranger, which is of course on back order. And we'll have a modification. The county needs to match 25% of that grant that's been received. So 60,000, that's 15,000 that we need to come up with. So that's part of that budget. We need to spend all that money to buy the Ranger and all the equipment with it, and then the state reimburses us. And the other part of the $15,000 on that our part of the grant match is that the state of Utah Search and Rescue Reimbursement Fund exists. And when we have expenses that qualify, and a piece of new equipment would qualify, we reimburse, we submit a request for reimbursement. So for example, just this year, just about a week ago, we got a check for $27,000. Yeah, that's the reimbursement check for the year for all the, everything we submitted, from some training, tuition, to a lot of fuel, equipment.
So just a little background on that, because I'm actually chairman of that board. What it is any SAR team in the state can submit costs for their rescues other than their time. We can't pay salaries. So they can submit for the rescue costs, they can submit for training costs, and they can submit for new equipment. And how it works is it's broken into a percentage. They'll pay the rescue expenses right up front. Then the training expenses will come next. And then there's a formula that's entered for the equipment. Up until this last year, there's been about 250, 300,000 in that account. This year it went up to over 640,000. So we actually funded 100% of rescues, 100% of training, and almost 100% of equipment. So
That's a statewide.
It's a statewide reimbursement. So I'm super excited that we're really going to start seeing some returns on equipment that we maybe where we've just got pennies on the dollars before, that we're going to start seeing some really good returns. There's also Senator Stewart, if you guys hear about this bill, he's doing a public land search and rescue bill that the sheriffs can submit their costs for searches off of public lands. So if that comes into play, I think we're in a really good position to start seeing some good returns for our SAR expenses. And I do think, I was telling Jim, I think in the next 2 years, you're probably going to see the SAR reimbursement fund go up over $1 million. So I'm pretty excited about, I think these teams, we've done a lot of work to try to get these teams more money, and I think we're ahead of that.
So what funds?
It comes from like ETV, registrations, boat registrations. They're looking.
Okay, so like fees that are recreational.
Yeah, recreation based.
Hunting and fishing licenses.
Yeah, hunting, fishing licenses. They're looking at maybe doing the license plate one, and they're talking about doing the one on RVs. They haven't done it yet, but that's one of the things they're looking at. Some of the legislators are looking to try to pull some other funds in.
So one of the things that the fund does not cover is maintenance equipment.
Right.
And as we have an aging fleet, we spend more on maintenance. We spent a lot of money this year. That's part of why we went over in this budget, is because of the maintenance of all this.
Well, and the one other thing too that we looked in the past is we've looked at their donation account to try to cover some of these expenses. Anything that is purchased off of donation cannot be reimbursed because it's not considered a true expense to the county. So that's where we need to try to make sure, at least before I've been a little dubious because it's been pennies on the dollar, but now this is getting better. I think we're better off to try to budget and start getting some more of that money back. Yeah.
Okay, so I did plug in 45,000 on the revenue side, then for
our Garmin. We submit our Garmin bill every month, and we typically
45,000 out of the 60,000 for the Ranger. Yeah, okay. So
yeah,
all
that's in
coming back to
addition
the-
to your other state reimbursement. So maybe we should look at that too, the other state reimbursement.
radio thing. Is that what you're talking about?
What does UCA stand for?
Inventory.
UCA, Utah
Communications.
Communications Authority. Thank you.
Let me see if I can remember where.
I think it's under the inventory tab. Research and rescue.
Well, I'm looking on that revenue side for the. Can't remember where it is. Let me look for it for a second. there's another revenue line item, I just wanted to address. Internet's starting to slow down here. Well, maybe while we're here, we can cover some of these sheriffs we don't know. I guess he stepped out, but we could maybe bump these up a little bit. Does anybody know how much we, like percentage wise, we increase some of the sheriff's fees? Or are going to?
Man, step down the road. I don't know.
All right, and then come back to, I can look for this search and rescue, other search and rescue line item. Not seeing it there. Kind of.
How does it work with billing people for, or insurance companies or whatever for us rescues? Is that?
Yeah, it's not, we don't do that, you know, unless it's a really egregious kind of situation. We haven't been doing.
Gross negligence.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Here,
here,
encourage people to donate.
Oh, we do that a lot.
Yeah, like a friend of mine got rescued in Yosemite.
Yes. We
Happily paid to suggest a
have a
donation.
business card that everybody has in their radio harness. It's got a QR code. Website, Facebook page, QR code that goes straight to the donation bank page. So we'll bring in $10,000 to $20,000 a year on donations.
okay, so this other, Jim, on this other state reimbursement, we brought in the 27,000 this year.
Okay,
What should we budget for next year?
or the reimbursement, and that is for the radios?
Well, whatever it is, I don't know what it is, but it's the one we do every year. That
It's just a normal state reimbursement.
You know, what, so what can we expect to bring in next year? This year was 27,000,
Yeah,
right?
is it going up or? is
It
staying?
should, hopefully
It
it'll
should
go up.
go up, but it's gonna depend on.
They plug in maybe 35,000. A bit of it,
Forget, I mean, it's gonna
I would
be-
go 30,
30, yeah.
just to play it safe.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll bump that up a little.
You're unstable, Chris. Says you're unstable.
Yeah, I know, we're breaking the internet here. How, percentage wise, how much would you say the sheriff's fees are going up?
I'll say that again.
Like percentage wise, how much do you think the sheriff's fees are going up? Like if I were to, because I've got, you know, these revenue line items for sheriff's fees, I'm just trying to figure out, you say you're increasing them, how much?
Well, the only one that's gonna go up right now is the special detail billing. Everything else, I think, was meeting the requirements, so maybe 5,000 more.
So last year we got like 11,661.
Yeah.
We're up to 9,000 this year.
I take it up to 15.
I can put that on my notes though, but I can pull the report of how many hours the deputies have done under that commercial amount and put it under the new amount that we did and try and get a better number there.
We've got a few more search and rescue line items to cover here. Expense side. Now we'll do inventory. Here's the UCA grant payment for radios.
Great.
40,000, so this is the expense side of that, right?
That is for next year and the same expense for this year.
And then tell me again what the revenue side would be for that. Is there a reimbursement?
So no reimbursement. The reimbursement, the cost of the Utah Communications Authority has cut a deal working with the legislature and working with a vendor to buy radios heavily discounted. A really good deal for the state. And then the UCA is with the intent of trying to move all the radios within the state of Utah to the 800 megahertz system, which some agencies even in this county are going with currently, but sheriff's office is moving slowly towards that. Search and rescue, we have no money, we've got no ratings to have that capability. So the program that they've set up is that the state will get heavily discounted, like 2/3 off the manufacturer's suggested retail. And then UCA will fund a large amount of that. And depending on the class county or class 5 county, they will start funding counties and cities from the lowest, the smallest level, class 6 on up. So we stand a good chance of getting everything we're going to ask for. So, but there is a state, or there is a local match. And so our match is going to be $70,000 over this 2-year program, about that.
But that can be submitted for reimbursement to the SRO.
That's right. So that's going to have to come out of the county, or out of the county funds, not the donation preferably, but county, so that it can be reimbursed.
So then that would, so I guess my question is though, should we increase that line item we were just talking about to reflect this 40 or whatever it is, 36,326?
Yeah, didn't we do that the other day in your office, Shannon?
We only cover the expense side. I'm talking about the revenue side. So if we have to do both sides. So
okay,
we talked about this. We made the adjustment for this year, which is 41,000, right? So if we can submit that for reimbursement.
Oh, okay. So how much would the ideal would be 36.
Well, and it just depends on how many, it's going to depend on how the formula breaks down with the amount of requests to the SAR board. So I don't think you can give an exact amount until we see the end of the numbers to what's been submitted. Does that make sense?
But there's not even a conservative estimate.
Right, it's going to depend on the request, so.
Probably a lot of counties.
When do they-
Yeah, my guess is there's going to be a lot of counties putting in for this.
When we know?
August,
Next year.
that's when the next year's reimbursements will happen, or the formula comes out.
All right, well, I guess I'll leave it out of the revenue side for now, but hopefully we can get the reimbursement. But we didn't include this 41,000 for 2022 in our reimbursement request.
No, because it hasn't happened yet. So the year just started. The SAR reimbursement fund year, which is
Yeah, because it's fiscal. It's on fiscal year.
so it's September 30 or October 1. So it's federal fiscal year.
But
So
you
we'll
will add that in. So
we'll get a bill. I mean, we'll make a purchase this fiscal, our fiscal year before December 31st.
Yeah.
And so that, when we get the invoice for that, we'll submit that for a request, but we won't know until all is said and done. I mean, you go through quarterly and review.
Yeah, and there will be no hang up with it being submitted for the request.
And probably getting approved,
Yeah, it'll get approved.
but you won't know how much you'll get until the end of this.
Right, until we get the total number of requests for the total number of money that's coming.
all right. So yeah, I think that this request, the 41,000, will be what we would budget for next year, but we just don't know what it's going to be. Because the reimbursement rate that we're going to get in 2023 is going to be for the states July to June. Yeah. All right. So anyway, that's the end of the search and rescue line items there. Anything else to discuss or any questions before we go to emergency management? Okay.
You go to 911 before you go to emergency management.
Yeah.
So there was one we had a question about.
Okay, so there's, to clarify, there's two parts of the emergency management budget. We've got the Fund 17, which is where we bring in the, I guess it's like a surcharge on phone bills that can go towards dispatch services, communications. So let's see, I don't know if I plugged in, how we plugged in revenue again. So last year we brought in 155,000. I'll have to try to project that what we get this year. We budgeted 155. We put in 155 for next year. Then there should be, we might have to discuss the grant side, 'cause we're,
That's the one that we were wondering about, was the grant revenue.
yeah, so
Is
I
that-
don't have anything in for grant revenue yet, but should be respective to the expected cost of Homeland Security grant, right?
That's what we were wondering about, because the grant, that grant that we were talking about is actually under the WMD grant. It actually has its own line item under emergency management.
Well, we used to have it over at the designated funds, but I don't think it makes sense to have it there. I think
No, it doesn't.
we should move it into this budget.
Okay,
So I'm just go take a look at that.
that's where we've been building stuff out.
Or Fund 25. anyway.
Yeah, so there it is. So keep it back in there, ask Chris.
But what I think we should do is move it up to Fund 17. So we got 267,000 out of this Homeland Security grant.
So that's gonna be the SHSP grant,
Oh, this is?
the WMD grant. For sake of, if you can rename them, that would be easier to.
All right, well, yeah, just, I guess let me know what's it really called.
Yeah, that one's the SHSP grant.
Okay, so I didn't realize that would be so much.
Yep.
It's not in there.
Every year, it's it's right around $220,000. It's the one that we share with San Juan County. So, and it has different requirements. So this year, I went through the worksheet and I figured out how much we have left to spend. We have approximately 3 years to spend the money from each grant year. So for 2020, we still have 6,000 left to spend on cybersecurity and 5,960 to spend on a radio project. That was the year that we started spending radio money on buying or procuring the 800s. So Matt is working currently. We have cybersecurity listed for all 3 years, and firewalls, which are all computer programs or computer projects. I've talked to Matt. He's working on projects for all 3 of those. They're not going to be sheriff's office specific. They are for the entire county to beef up cybersecurity for the entire county, whether part of it is going to be the training that we do get in our email boxes. I don't know if that's countywide, but the little programs that we get. But beefing up firewalls, we did talk about doing an off-site backup servers. So putting them somewhere else that are not in the courthouse to make sure that if this, for some reason the courthouse does get compromised in any way, we have backup somewhere else. So he said that he might look into doing something like that with some of that money, which is completely okay. He's also looking at some of the risk management, using some of the risk management for a project for those 2. The EOP plan is one that we were looking at. We're probably going to have to tweak that project a little bit since the basic plan is done and it should actually be coming to the commission soon. As soon as the basic plan is adopted and promulgated, we'll start working on building ESFs, the backplanes or the annexes for the EOP to have the county adopt. And then once that's done, then every 4 years it will have to be updated and adopted. The radio projects for both of those years are going to be used to back up the VHF system, the current VHF system. The entire state is working towards that 800 system, but the VHF system, it's been decided that it's probably in our best interest as a county to keep that VHF as a backup. And so a lot of our equipment is aging at the tower sites and here in the city limits and out of the EOC. So we've been talking to a couple of contractors about procuring the equipment to back it up and make it so that it's sustainable. Plus the VHF system gives us a little bit of safety in corridors that the 800 doesn't provide any kind of reliability for for our guys. So we're gonna use some of the money for that. The detectors, that covers our crowded spaces requirement. So we're gonna buy some more metal detectors, some more of the wands, but also the ADA compliant metal detectors. So if we need them for any reason in the commission chambers, we can move one down here. If we ever have any concerns down here, we can use that. The Alert Sense is going to be to provide some more public outreach to get more people to sign up for that, put out some more public education on that. One of the requests, especially in light of the flooding events and everything, is to bring back the CERT team, to enlist volunteers to train, to bring out some more public awareness and to have some more volunteers to come and help with things of that nature. And then we've got barricades and traffic cones so that we can use those in the event of large events. And traffic cones, we can always use those, honestly. So that's what the SHSP grant monies are supposed to be used for at least these 3 grant cycles, broken up by year. And I forgot to attach the grant paper to I'll do that when I get back to my
That's
office.
all right. I think, well, there's something attached. Let's see what it is.
What does SHSP stand for?
State Homeland Security Program.
Thank you.
So I got a 2018 grant, is that what it is?
That was the old, that's really.
So we got to revise it.
Yeah, so I've got all 3 years of those I need to add to. So,
All right, so I might, like I say, move this up into Fund 17.
Okay.
Just so we can consolidate everything and make it easier to do it.
cleaner, works.
But, so this is 100% reimbursement.
That's 100% reimbursement, yes.
So the revenue side would be the same.
Mhm.
And then going back up to Fund 17. 4 line items here.
So for 911, we decided just to kind of break it down what we figure out for dispatch, to run dispatch. The phone bill actually will probably go down a little bit with the implementation of our new phone system this year and cleaning up all of our phone providers. So we did stay about the same for this year, but hopefully with all of the new systems, we'll go down a little bit this year. And then UCA, with all of the new radios, or with all the radio equipment and everything we currently have, we do pay maintenance fees as it is right now. That should hopefully go away next year as well. The MediaWorks recorder is our recorder for all of our phones and our radios. We do lease that, so that one will stay the same. The miscellaneous supplies, but then the capital equipment is that one that I think that's where we put the.
Well, this is where I tried to move the SHSP grant.
Yeah,
Last
that's
year
what it
with a
was.
stick, so this would, I'd probably make a new line item anyway for it. And
Okay.
so this would be the expense side of that if I move it up. So that's what that big number was. That's what we had whenever we did the budget last year.
Gotcha.
For
Okay.
remainder on that.
Gotcha. I think everything else is pretty straightforward.
And the headsets.
Yes.
Training. Let me check the bottom line here and see how we're doing. So we're a little bit in the red, 2,450. It's possible though that we could get a little bit more of that 911 tax. I think there's a fund balance in there too, so it's not a big deal if we have to draw that off the fund balance, but we are slightly in the red on this between revenue and expense. Then 40% of emergency manager, I think, comes out of here, 60.
Well, we should get money back from the UCA as well.
From where?
The UCA for
What?
compliance to the minimum standards and best practices.
And we want to bring that in here to this fund. Do you have any idea how much that would be?
Last year we got 17,000, but it's contingent on our transfers and our.
You remember at all where we brought that money in?
I have no idea. I gave the check to Jenna.
Probably didn't put it in this fund, but she should have. I mean, there's dispatch expenses, obviously, in the general fund too, so it's not a big deal, but. So I think I'll check the fund balance, and if we have that 2,400 to pull from the fund balance, I'll balance the budget just by bringing it out of the fund balance. But if we don't have the fund balance, then we might have to make some cuts or figure out new revenue. So that's that part of emergency management. There's also a department in the general fund.
Can you go back to the expense side there? Just for the sake of the public, can you open up the miscellaneous supplies? And just.
Oh, yeah. We got language link, motivations. I don't know what this stuff is. That's explain it.
Language link is the link that we assign to, or when we get a caller that's from a different country that doesn't speak English, we can connect that caller with the translator.
That's a have to.
And it's really neat. They can translate in any different language, even the different dialects of an Asian language. So we can do that. Motivations is the company that we use to pull our calls and Q&A them. So they will pull random calls. That's one of the requirements from the UCA is that 2% of all of our annual calls are pulled and run against line of questions to see how we're doing. It's a great tool to see how we're doing, and then they provide training based off of where we're kind of falling short. ProQA is our emergency medical dispatch system that's based off of their protocols. We're actually working towards accreditation with them. And then APCO is too many acronyms. Can't remember what that one stands for. I didn't look it up.
Public answering point or something.
Public
It's dispatchers.
public
it's
communications.
Anyway.
Anyway, it's a membership that we have that's for dispatchers that provides training opportunities. They send us monthly trainings and articles and things that we can use for continuing education credits. NINA is pretty much the same thing. The National Emergency Number Association, that's another membership. And then Dispatch Uniforms is the last one.
Thank you.
So let's go up to the general fund.
Association of Public Safety Communications Officials.
Thank you.
Does that go? Love acronyms.
Slide with more of them.
All right, so here's the general fund side of this budget.
More acronyms.
So here we've got 40% of emergency manager.
So one of the
Yeah, I just want to roll down this list and kind of explain things.
Yep. One of the grants that there is not room on anywhere for this is the EMPG grant. It's the Emergency Management Professional Grant. Yeah, something like that. That actually contributes $43,200 per fiscal year. We don't, it's not anything that we have to be reimbursed for or anything. We report to them every quarter on the emergency management program, and they just send us the check for what our emergency management program is doing. So that actually goes to, I've been reporting for the last 2 years on salary, pretty much. So that just reimburses for salary. So
I think we might have a revenue line out of that.
I have one, I didn't check revenue. We've also put in for, I think, the SAT funds or something too. Occasionally we'll send them a receipt for those. So, but the first subscriptions and memberships, considering that you're going to have a new EM coming in. UEMA is the Utah Emergency Managers Association, and then the National Emergency Management, and then the International Emergency Management. All three of these are memberships that Rick would pay for. They all send the magazines and have the benefits for discounts on trainings and things like that. I only ever paid for the Utah Emergency Managers just because it would give me a discount on the annual conference. And then travels for trainings and meetings. Most of them have been virtual. So I've just done them that way. Office supplies and expenses, the ID card machine that's over in Eve's office. She prints out the ID cards for everybody in the office with their pictures on them and then their certifications on the back. And I believe we can use that for big incidents to check everybody in. And then the printer lease in the jail or outside the jail office. Equipment maintenance fees are for the satellite communications for both of the command posts. So, and I think the sat phone that's in dispatch. The utilities are going to be power for the and out of the EOC, propane for the communications towers, which has actually up until this month been billed out of hazmat for some reason. And sat and that one has sat phones coming out of it too, but we'll work on getting those fixed so that they all come out of the same places. Professional and technical. So we've got the new radio tower that went in up at the Book Cliffs, and we've gotten approval to start putting equipment up there. So we're going to have a consultant go in and do a site survey. That's going to be about $5,000. And then we were just awarded a new grant. It's the HMPG grant. It's going to be to do our pre-hazard mitigation plan. It's going to be to update that one. So the grant is $40,000 total for, it's a $4,000 count for the county share. $36,000 is what the HMPG will pay for. And
So 36 on the revenue side.
yes.
Let me stop you so I can just put that
Now I have to look at what HMPG stands for. Two acronyms.
in.
We'll go with that. Helicopter.
36.
The hazard mitigation grant.
Okay.
So we're going to use that one to go and pay for the pre-hazard mitigation plan. We're getting that one rolling pretty quickly because our plan expires in October. And then $3,000 will pay for the Alert Sense program that we share with Emory County. Then $500 is our share for the HMEP grant, which is the hazmat emergency plan. That's a grant that we only have to pay $500 into. I think it's a $4,000 total grant that we can use for hazmat needs. But it's contingent on us having the EOP promulgated. The miscellaneous services are going to be for porta potties, for events, or this year I believe we used it for meetings. I think we had to use some of it for when we put Doreen up in the hotel during the flood. Clothing allowance is self-explanatory. The state does require that we do have $1,000 in our hazmat expense for hazmat emergencies. With the new EM coming in, they're going to need a laptop and a desktop. So those are quotes given by Matt.
It's a special desktop.
Just a desktop period, so we don't have one.
Because normally desktops are 1,000 and laptops are 1,200.
He said they'll be 2,500 with monitors.
Oh,
Two
with all
monitors.
the monitors and keyboards and everything.
Mhm.
Okay, so it's like a full computer set.
Yeah, because we don't have anything.
All right, so is that going to include, like, do we have desk and everything?
We've got a desk that we can put in that office and a chair. So yeah, so we're good with that. And then we do have an old tough book that was Rick's, but I don't know how well it'll work. So we figured a new laptop would probably be nice for them. And then $2,000 for EM training. Most of the EM training is free, but if there's something else that they think they need for that's a little bit more specialized, then put some money in the training budget.
Okay. So that's it for emergency management. Any more discussion or questions? Good job, you guys. Nice to have all these details.
Yes.
Shan did a good job. This was Shan, put a lot of this together. Rest of the staff.
Okay, any other questions for these folks before we last, we gotta do public defender. All right, well, I'm gonna take a little bathroom break, but somebody wanna knock on Mallory's door and see if she's gonna be ready.
This is Aaron's card, but this is, we've got a generic card that has, doesn't have a name. It also has our website and our Facebook page.
Vacation plan for
You know,
January
so,
1st.
We're kind of talking about
We
it.
go out on
Oh,
SARS,
I
we've
would
got
do
it.
that.
We're,
See, we'll have
I think we're gonna get settled for a month.
You know, percentage of people
So
actually.
you're
go.
gonna kind of do.
I don't have a percentage, but I'll bet you, 5 to 10% do.
And just
It's
try to
pretty
get our
amazing.
feet underneath
And
us to see
some of
what
them are
time
very
it's
generous.
like. What was your
Yeah, I
phone
just
name?
got a phone
And
call
I
from
really
the guy.
found my wife. We
All
were
right,
both
now, he
always
chose
wanted to go to
on the Slick Rock
All
Trail.
right, symbol, I
He
see
just
your
went
address.
down, his heart rate
Symbol,
was like
like,
200.
Okay.
You know, and he's
All right,
got like
recommend
an
it.
episode
Well, I.
going on. And,
So I can't.
we went out there, Enos
Uh-huh.
went out there,
We did
Classic
that.
went out there, we all right at the
Okay.
same time. Stabilized the guy, he flew off the Grand Junction, and he was so grateful. He called me and just,
One side.
he wanted to donate.
Oh,
We're good with that. So, yeah.
right.
You know, so if you want to go to the place.
Good, how are you?
Good.
You excited?
Yes, I love public defender stuff and special events.
Oh, special events. Aaron is our guy in special events.
He
You
is.
know that, right?
Do. How are you?
Okay.
Been busy?
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you were talking.
I think it's one of
I
them.
don't think that it was medical access.
Okay.
He did.
I just know we want someplace to stick our feet in the sand.
Yeah, he told me he saw
And not
you.
think about anything. That's kind of the
Told you that I
plan.
was
So
grateful.
Yeah.
Hopefully February.
Yes,
or
for
March.
sure.
Mallory's going.
Where are you
Hawaii.
going? Which island?
I'm going to Oahu.
Did you know Al lived there?
I did not.
Yeah, he was like a dive master. Yeah. In Hawaii.
Really?
Yeah.
What?
So you need to pick his brain. Him
Why
and
did
Jen
he come
both.
here?
Jen worked for some big resort over there.
Good to know.
So, yeah,
When
so
do they
I would pick his
come?
brain, because I've been trying to kind of pick it to where he would go and what he would do.
Jim, what's
Well, you should
what's
tell.
Aaron's last name?
Yeah.
Went to the Big
Yeah.
Island because
Yeah.
it had
Covered
a
the
place to
Oh,
stay.
Yeah, he might, yeah.
N-E-Y.
But
Dad.
I do want to see Pearl Harbor.
What?
I do want to see Pearl Harbor.
Oh,
If I go,
they do want-
I would really like to go see Pearl
Well, I
Harbor.
think that would be, yeah.
Yeah.
So you probably want to, what's that?
Yeah,
That's
That's the big island. Yeah, the big island.
And that, yours isn't
It's
complicated.
the main, it's the one.
Unless you wanted Jim or James.
Jim's
I know.
fine.
Yeah.
What did you
It's the one
put?
where.
I put Jim.
Honolulu is.
All right,
Yeah.
thanks.
Yeah, so, I don't know, we may go, we may not, but
But you
that's
know,
kind of,
then you can also get on like sailboats and such.
Yeah.
To other islands.
yeah. All right, guys, thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Okay, Mallory, you ready? Walk us through the public defender.
Oh, good old public defender. I'll give a quick overview because this is going to be very different than it has been in the past. So we last year did a grant with the Indigent Defense Commission for public defender services to add what's deemed in here part-time public defender. We changed a lot of the coding to align with the grant reporting. And then things got a little interesting because we weren't able to actually fill one of the positions that we were getting funding for. So when you're looking back at the actuals from 2021, 2022, just still in process, they're kind of all over the place. And part of that is that they were coded. We moved around the coding. I think that changes. We also had a history of miscoding here. And that's kind of part of this stuff right now is it's hard to tell what is truly in what line item and what it's supposed to pull to. But I have sadly very familiar with this, so I can get us through. But the big thing that you'll see is for 2023, we're not proposing anything for a part-time public defender, just because that was grant funded. And we didn't fill that one. We are proposing a increase for the contract attorney. And if you guys want me to explain what any of these are, let me know. And then with our primary public defender, we've had some increases over the past few years, and I think that is going to continue, especially given that we have a very limited access to attorneys here. It's a pretty crucial position, and we definitely want to keep attorneys here in our courts. The parental defender gets very interesting. We had a attorney, so parental defender does juvenile delinquency, all family stuff that isn't civil. And they were on contract for a number of years. And this year, a few months in, they gave their resignation and went from a salary to hourly billing. So that has caused an increase that I predict will, at the end of the year, cost us $22,000 more. And going off of the numbers from this year, I am projecting that it would be $29,000 more a year for 2023.
That's in that 113. I'm sorry. Or that's in that one.
It'd be in this should be.
Parental, we're still on parental. Okay, sorry.
Yes. And
I see that. Okay.
that's just a weird one because right now, actually, because it's gone to hourly, it all should be coming in out of defense resources. I guess that doesn't matter. We'll just focus on the blue line.
Maybe we can make the differentiation, I think, here, so we can track parental defender separate from the other line items.
All right.
Which is how it is already, so.
The other main thing I want to hit on. I guess I could just sum this one up with it's very simple, but it's very complicated, given that we don't know the number of cases that will go to the court. We don't know how many hours the attorneys will have to put into the cases. We don't know what resources or how many resources they will need, nor do we know the price of those. So really the only thing that we know for sure is the contracts. And even those I think are a little shaky this year. So might have a lot of questions from you all, but I'm happy to give it my best.
Okay, well, since it's such a small thing, I was just going to try to understand all the line items. So that third from the bottom, I can't read the defense resources and it's cut off. Is this just catch all for everything that's not part of the contract?
Yes, so if it's not a contract, including if it's an hourly conflict attorney, it would go into there. So there's only 3 types of attorneys that we have on contract. The rest are under there along with anything else, really.
Okay, and then the parental defender, but pardon my ignorance, I mean, how is that different from a regular defender?
So they would just do like the juvenile side of things, family services.
So it's a conflict attorney for children and, you know, there's whatever associated.
It's the primary for children.
Oh, like if our main
Oh, yeah,
public
you're right.
defender is representing the
No, you're
parent,
right.
then we get someone else to represent.
No, sorry, I was confused. So this is actually the primary one. So Aaron didn't want to do criminal defender when it was back with Torgerson. They did they do both? I can't remember. Anyway,
I think
it's separated at this point. I think it used to be all under one.
But this is
One
just for
contract. and-
juvenile clients.
yes. And
Yeah,
some could also be captured in the defense resources.
yeah.
And
So
then-
defense resources is the brunt of our conflict attorneys. This conflict contract A, which is historically been with Steve Russell. Is the only conflict attorney that we have a contract with, right?
And the way these contracts work, it's just an annual, I mean, how does it relate to the number of hours they're actually?
Well, so,
It does not, but what we're hoping to have in the conflict attorney A contract for 2023 is some kind of a catch, or it will be this much. And if you hit X number of cases, then we can kick into hourly, but really that one has been
that one
very,
should be
very well
revised
studied.
because, yeah, Steve's working for peanuts. So anyway, I mean, what happened is we tried this IDC grant, which forced us to go put all our contracts out to bid. We don't have enough attorneys for that program to really work the way it's supposed to. So because there's not enough competition, they basically dictate what they're gonna charge us. We don't have an option. So there's just not enough attorneys to bid. And then the bids we got back weren't really compliant with what the IDC needed either. It just kind of, it just didn't work. You know, you need a bigger pool of attorneys competing for these things for that to work. And that's how we ended up losing the contract for parental defender. But, you know, it's like, there's nobody else that even wants to do it.
Yeah.
So we're in a position of paying whatever their hourly rate is, you know. And if we sign a contract, it probably wouldn't be any different amount. We don't have any contracts either for all the backup conflict attorneys. And sometimes they go up to like 4 deep if you have a complicated case with lots of different people. So yeah, I mean, it's not a good place to be in. It's obviously a major increase, but I don't know what we can do about it because we just don't have competition available to bid it out.
Okay. Yeah, no, I wasn't looking at, excess spending. I'm just trying to understand how these
Yeah.
things are structured.
So yeah, Aaron's contract is the managing public defender, even though I don't know if he can be called that anymore.
Right, but does he get paid just 113 and then he might work 2,000 hours a year? It might be just half that, but it's the same price regardless, is that?
Yeah. I mean, we bumped that one up. We did increase his contract salary because we were expecting him to be the managing public defender, to manage the part-timer and then do all the IDC stuff on top of that. So it's a little bit of a funny thing too, that now, you know, the whole thing with IDC is to get more accountability in public defense, and so that we compile data and statistics, which hasn't been happening.
Do we have the option of just paying people hourly
For what? For the,
for the?
I think every time we go hourly, it ends up costing us more, so I wouldn't advise that.
Okay, but
And
it's an option, but
completely unknown.
it's a more
Because they
expensive
usually
option.
will charge their private rates if they do that, that's what's happening. They'll start charging private rates. I mean, there is, probably some value to, knowing workload, guaranteed workload, but again, we don't have enough attorneys to compete for it.
I'm just thinking about incentives, like if like suddenly there's a lot more cases than someone's expecting, but they're have no incentive to, put in.
Yes, and that's, I think, part of the challenge that Utah is having around the state is because of how they've done their public defender system and the structure for, I don't know, I guess it's been required by the Constitution, versus other states where they've had a state centralized public defender program. So they have that ability. Right now, what the IDC is trying to do is get people to kind of, oh, I want to have more supervision. I want to start doing all of these things that have never been required. So I think it's a huge challenge and really something that we don't have much ability to control. I think the state is in the same boat, and yeah, no
What
easy
it felt
solution.
like when we had that meeting with,
And we don't have any data, so we don't know with the question of going to hourly for everyone. We have no idea what that would look like. So I think contracts are the safe way to go. Actually, I think with our parental defender, it would be ideal to have one under contract, actually.
Okay.
But
Okay. Anything else on this one? Okay, well, that does it then. Yeah, I mean, just an update on COLAs. I mean, the Social Security Administration approved an 8.7% increase in benefits, which we usually try to match. That's, maybe pretty difficult. So that'll be a discussion next time also, the COLA, which may or may not get decided at all among this board. We'll see. It's going to be tough, I think, this year because the tentative budget is going to require, a lot of cuts to be balanced. And I don't think we're going to have the time for this board to really advise on those cuts. I think we're going to have to just approve a tentative budget that's not in balance and then spend November bringing it into balance with the commission. I mean, and most of those big decisions are going to be kind of with the commission, but at the end of next week, I'll have some idea of what the bottom line is, and then send out, notification to the departments, at least notification to the departments that have some element of discretion in their budget. Some departments don't have it. I mean, some departments, they can't cut anything because they're already down to the barest bones.
which departments are those, Stephen?
Treasurer, probably forgot their commission admin, like a lot of departments don't really have it, like they're 95% salary and benefits, and so unless you cut the salaries, you can't save anything. You might be able to go and carve like a few $100s out here and there, but that's not going to do it. So, I mean, it's going to be like the sheriff's budget and some of these other big ones that have new requests, different things like that. But
So how, over the past few years, how have projected expenses compared to actual expenses each year?
Again, I mean, I've gotten a lot closer. It used to be that we would end up somewhere between 600,000 and 800,000 under budget on the general fund. And I've started, to get then that's sort of the contingency element, but it largely has to do with just not being fully staffed most of the time. So there's that element. So typically, I'd say the budget's going to be balanced if it's between 600,000 and 800,000 in the red. Not much more than 800,000 though, without truly going into the bad dry. We can draw off the fund balance. We've got money in the fund balance to draw off of if we need to. We have to decide how much is reasonable, knowing that there's a lot of prognostication of recession
Well, they,
The other thing to keep in mind is that like right now, most of the sales taxes are projecting dead flat straight across. But there's, some reality that that could even be too much, that because the first third of this year was still riding high on revenge travel, or whatever you want to call it. And we could come in even lower on sales tax next year because of that. Like if I were to really project hardcore conservative, I would start, with the projection to only use the months after April.
So if 191 traffic predicts sales checks, then the traffic's back up to 2021 levels in October.
Yeah, bump back up. Yeah. So I noticed that.
oh yeah, you go downtown and I mean, there's so many people crossing in the crosswalks and such, you just try to avoid Main Street, yeah, it's really.
So maybe we could talk more about just different ways of projecting sales tax revenue.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that we're, given all things, projecting flat growth straight across is sort of middle of the road in a way. Already. It's all just guesswork, of course, but if we do see increases, like by the time we have to approve the budget, we'll only have like 9 months out of the year of revenue to look at. And so the last 3 months of the year, we won't even know what they are. And so if things picked up at the end of the year for October, November, December, we won't have seen that yet. We won't see it because we usually have to approve the budget before we get the sales tax.
But you can make some guesses based on occupancy rates and.
Good. And we might have to, but if that trend continues, and maybe we'd be okay with projecting things the way they are right now. But just to say, there's another big federal grant that I'm going to apply for. I don't know when. It's not due until like next year, but I don't know when the award. I mean, we probably wouldn't know if we even got that big federal grant until next year. So I don't know that we budget for it. It's a fair amount of money, especially if it's designed for rural America. Especially with a lot of public lands in their jurisdiction. I don't think that, even if I apply for it this year, and it could be, $1 million more, which would obviously ease things up, but I don't think that we'll know if we're going to get that until after that grant period closes. They probably won't do awards until after the grant period closes.
So who's the grant going to?
Let's see if I can look at my email.
Federal or something?
Yeah, it's federal. It's some kind of legislative appropriation, similar to ARPA and CARES.
Let's see, U.S. Treasury's Local Assistance and Tribal Consistency Fund.
Yeah, it's probably.
Program was passed by Congress as part of the American Rescue Plan Act and provides $1.5 billion in 2 equal payments of $750 million for fiscal years 22 and 23 to eligible revenue sharing counties, or those counties with large amounts of federally owned public lands.
We have a strong case.
Yeah. So let's start working on that grant application. But when is the date that it closes? Does it say? It's not.
Oh, it's January 31st, 2023. I saw it.
So we won't know. There won't be an award probably until after the grant period closes. So that's an option of a revenue possibility, a pretty significant one. I still need to look into it more to figure out like how much we might qualify for and that kind of thing, and what the stipulations are on it. Because some of those previous ARPA grants we could claim lost revenue, like the two big tranches that we got for 947,000 each. We exceeded that amount in lost revenue in 2020. And so I didn't even have to describe how we were spending it because I just proved that we lost that amount of revenue due to COVID. And that was an easy way to do it. I don't know what the stipulations are on this one. It might, it might not be as easy as that. And so if there are restrictions on expenditure, then, it complicates things a bit, but could be a good opportunity to just want to know about it after we have to approve the budget. Just give it a heads up here. Anything else before we close the meeting? Okay, it's 4:03 p.m. I'm going to close this October 21st Budget Advisory Board meeting. Thanks, everybody.